Hello, everybody, and welcome. I know we are just getting going. It's just a little bit after 11. This class is a special class. I'm going to mute you guys, not because I don't love you, but only because it is better for the recording, the quality of the recording. And I'm sure that people will be tuning in too. Welcome. It is wonderful to see you. And I know that I'm pressing buttons and trying to do too many things at once because my brain works best if I focus on one thing at a time. August 20th, 2022. Hello and welcome. Hi, it's so great to see you. Hi, Marie. Thank you for being here. New class participant. So what I have for sharing today is a lesson that I initially recorded way back in 2017. So this is not part of the levels 1 and 2 that I have available for everyone on Teachable. So to recap, last week we did Galactic History, the mini class. That was a marathon. Everyone was amazing. Everyone stuck with me for the whole time. I was so pleased and gratified, and I got so much positive feedback. So thank you so much for everyone that was a part of that and everybody that caught the archive. I think that was really important, really powerful, really great. So the way the class is structured in level 1, so in level 2, there's no more formal lessons for me to share with. In level 1, there's a lesson that's called Flying Rainbow Lasagne and Non-duality, and I'll definitely get to that. And then also a wrap up, like an overview and what's coming in the future. So I'm going to be doing that over the next couple of weeks. And then, so that's next week and then early September when we'll have a wrap up party too, and kind of celebrate the completion of the semester. But then I'm going to just go directly into the next week, beginning from lesson 1 at the very beginning again. So if you are a person that is new, welcome, welcome, welcome. And thank you for being in my class. And it's a perfect time to kind of come with the momentum of everything that I've shown you here at the end, kind of like, dun, dun, like the big culmination. Like there's that Beatles song, A Day in the Life, where it goes all the way up to the dun, 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 bomb. There you're at that moment, literally in my class. But don't worry, it's not the end of the song, because then we actually go back to the beginning. And I always tailor and customize everything for the relevancy of where we are in our personal and planetary journey of whatever's going on, so it's not repetitive. So anybody that's been in the class, consider yourselves perma-enrolled. You don't have to enroll again or pay another fee. I'm absolutely so happy to have you continually on board. And that goes for students of 5 or 10 years ago. You're always welcome to come back. And anybody that was in last week's mini class or mini seminar, you're absolutely welcome to stay on board. I encourage you. The way that I do my whole entire sharing is about prioritizing your presence and your energy and the capacity to connect, and then secondarily tuition payments and enrollment fees, even though I'll joke about that in today's lesson also. Like I always joke about keeping my electrons flowing in a wire. So there's energy that is exchanged. We're coming out of an economy. Yes, I ask for fees. Yes, there's always scholarships. All of that is just secondary to the idea of thank you for opening yourself up to what I have to share. Wait, I have to go grab my lasagna sculpture. Hold on one second. I left it on my kitchen table. I have 2 things for today. Here I have my lasagna sculpture, and I made a shiny new torus for us in class, because you know my little black sculpture that I've been showing you for a while, like I had an original yellow one. It broke in my many different moves. Then I did a black one out of the same filament, and I always found it to be difficult for you to see on the camera. And then somebody purchased that out of a studio sale that I had recently. So I just made a new yellow one so you can see what this shape and what this form is like. So I'm very happy. And you guys can tell, like, I'm always making and creating. This was actually a new process that I had done with the same materials, but just a different process of being able to do it. So, and then I'll refine it and make it better. I'm always going for perfection. Anyway, what I have to share with you guys in terms of the transformation of the torus shape into Flying Rainbow Lasagna, that is primary. That is what I'm really here for. That is my real focus. And all of these other aspects, the mere vagaries of commerce and things like that, are secondary, yet still are important and affect my life. So I always ask for people to volunteer, and I love voluntarily support my work. I love calling things free will, love gifting. Like that makes a beautiful sense of what it is, paying for tuition, and I always offer scholarships. boom, done on that. So that's on the housekeeping lesson of moving forward into the next semester. Oh, Martin is saying he finds this one much clearer. Yeah, I'm very, very happy that you can see. I think I got my lines a lot clearer and my manufacturing process a lot clearer. And the only thing, like I was using a wood burning tool to fuse things together at the center. So that's why I just got a little bit burned and crunchy there, but I'm going to figure out my heat settings even better so that next time I don't burn my filament. So that's me being an artist and self-critical. Like I'm always working on my creations to make them even better. Okay, so what is today all about? Today is called In the Face of Adversity, Dance Like a Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And I originally recorded this as part of the 2017 semester. That's, oh my goodness, 5 years ago at this point, when our planet and our world, we were about to have a big eclipse in literally it was like August 17th or something like that. And I really felt this sense of like, there's something big is happening and birth contractions are happening. So I diverged from my usual syllabus and did this particular teaching, which is a generalized overview of what is lasagna, what is it all about, how do you do it? Because I feel like this is the most important stuff, most, relevant. If there's only one lesson that you catch of my stuff, may it be this one. So I said also this morning on Facebook, I opened up the class to like auditors. If you want to audit the class, meaning not formally enroll, but just simply learn by being here, please come and learn by being here. I'm so happy to have you. Pardon me while I drink some of my beautiful electrolyte water. As I'm on a marathon, I get very thirsty while I get going, and I'm scrolling back through my notes. So I also take extensive lecture notes this year. I haven't always. I used to just speak extemporaneously, but this year I've been taking extensive lecture notes based upon my original lessons that are from 10 or 9 years ago. And I started out doing them in shorthand for me, and then realizing that others can really benefit from this. So super excited to tell you, yesterday I took the time, several hours, to put together all of my lecture notes into one big long PDF or an ebook format. And I'm about to make that available to everyone who's in this class, like all of my patrons, everyone who's formally enrolled in the class, because I usually send out the class notes as part of the emails, the invites, and then the archives. And a lot of people have gotten back to me that it's very helpful for them to have the synopsis, and also just neurocognitively, our brains work differently when you are hearing information that comes in through your ears as opposed to reading information that comes in through your eyes. And it's actually really good to do neural pathways from different directions in terms of emphasizing and solidifying information. So I like doing it. I will share with you that writing has not been my strong suit for a very long amount of time. Like I've had language difficulties and stuff from, various whatever artifacts of brain damage in my brain, and the laborious flapping of my mouth parts have been challenging. So a little bit more effort to be able to describe these things in words. So I'm so really like proud that I have written so much this year, and I put it together into this PDF. I'm calling it Flying Rainbow Lasagna Flight Manual, okay? And again, I want to prioritize making this information go out there and be available to people. Secondarily, people can donate, gift, and send energy back to me in the way that it feels good and righteous. So I'm about to put that together. It's 244 pages. I wrote a book of 244 pages. Like, to me, that is wild. Like, painting these paintings, that is normal, but like a book, amazing. So yeah, just putting that together in the editing form. And so that's coming up in the next couple of weeks as we complete the semester. So there's always new cool stuff coming out from Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And so this morning I was just working on my formal notes for today, which I will also include, because this is a really good, like I said, overview of what is Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And it's coming through the portal of 2017 through that viewpoint. But something, we run in time cycles. So at that time, I recorded this lesson because I was like you feel like yourself like grabbing onto the roller coaster, like as you're like going upward, like something big is going to happen. That was what I felt like in 2017. And of course, we did go through a portal and go through all these different ups and downs and different things. Well, now we're on another another time cycle when it's really relevant to do this again. And so I'm happy that I have these things to return to. So let's also do this, but also in all of these sharings that I give to you, I never want to give you the sense of anxiety or being intimidated, like, oh no, we're going through a big thing. Like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Like what, the white knuckle feeling. I want you to feel totally capacitated, totally empowered, totally divinely supported, totally divinely witnessed. And when I talk about the divine, just to be really clear in my language, that I'm talking about capital D divine presence, not necessarily affiliated with like any earth religious writings or Bibles or holy writings or anything like that, not to condescend or dismiss any of that, but I'm talking about something that's purely abstract and really beyond the anthropomorphic, the cosmic, divine, abstract presence, that which creates and sustains and upholds everything and nourishes everything that we are a part of. P.S. Spoiler alert, it's you. I always tell you that. You'll remember it truly. So that's where I'm coming from on the sense of being extremely divinely guided, divinely supported, even if we might be going through challenging events. And my response to challenging events is always dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. So what do I mean by this as I'm getting into this? The flying rainbow, and if I look off to the side, it's because I take my extensive notes and read from them. The flying rainbow lasagna and how exactly to transform the genetic structure of your ordinarily toroidal. The word toroid is an outgrowth of torus, and torus means donut shape. Ordinarily toroidal energy field into the flying rainbow lasagna shape, which could be called a hyper-torus. Hyper meaning higher dimensional, all right? So the whole idea of this teaching is this is the shape of the chakras of your body and the innate structure of what you are in terms of having a time body, a light body, and body of pure ideas and of pure energy. And when you make the cognitive leap by learning new ideas, information, and techniques, it allows your DNA and your energy field to transform from these toroidal structures into this higher dimensional torus structure, which I call flying rainbow lasagna. So one of the things you can do is, I want you to focus right now on the red edge that looks like the curly lasagna noodle. If I hold my sculpture just right, relevant to the camera, there's a crossing over point here where you can see it makes kind of like an X shape or a twisted X shape with that. And then where I'm tracing with my finger at the back, that looks very similar to the twisted strand of a single DNA as it stands right now. And I'll talk about the strands of DNA as they are right now versus as they were more like a spring or like a slinky. But this shape relates very much to new DNA twistings, intercoilings, and interweavings. So in galactic history, I talked about what our DNA was shaped like in the pristine world that we came out of, which is known as Atlantis or mythological time, when we were larger, had more durable bodies, we literally had longevity of the hundreds or thousands of year range. And when our DNA, instead of being, I can draw it with you because I'm going to do a lot of drawings for you today, so be prepared. And I don't know how many hours today will be because I took a lot of notes, but I might simplify a little bit. Right now, DNA is represented as more of a waveform like this, and it's actually not an equal. I'll show you what it is not. Wait, it's something, sometimes it is shown kind of like this. That's actually not accurate. DNA is more accurately, let me just change this. I don't know if people like to be shown on camera, so I always give people privacy. DNA is more kind of like a twisted ladder that has a groove that is close together and a groove that is far apart. So here you've got the close together groove, it's literally called the minor groove, and then here you've got the larger groove that is called the major groove, just like in the piano or the guitar, minor and major keys, minor groove and major groove. So you can see they are slightly off register here, but not fully off register. And so that is the present format of DNA. But the way that our DNA really is supposed to be shaped is really more like a big giant looping, a slinky toy, a spiral, kind of like the, I think people still know what slinky is. Is slinky still a toy? Slinky is a toy from a long time ago that was kind of like these spring-like, fun shapes that went all around and kids could play with them. This is what our DNA looks like or looked like or behaved like or behaves like in a higher dimensional state. So you guys know if you have something that's rounded and you like press a flower or put it between pages of a book, it flattens out. That is what happened to the human DNA form. It went from being this rounded, multi-dimensional form into something that is flattened out and now has that sense of a long kind of squashed out one tendril shape. And that is what this transforms. Because if we take that long tendril shape and unzip it, just like the zipper of your jacket, you unzip it. So now it's shaped kind of like a Y with teeth on one side and teeth on the other side. You can place the Flying Rainbow Lasagna in that unzipped area. And then this is this place where the top zipper goes around this side and the other zipper goes around the other side, and then it joins back together over here. And this shape is, of course, a twisting and whirling shape and an oscillating shape. So I'll get to that in my notes. That was just very short, brief overview. The idea is torus into hyper-torus or Flying Rainbow Lasagna means gaining another dimension. You gain another dimension in math talk. If anybody's been in my class, it's the talk that I give about going from the 0th dimension all the way up to the 10th, 11th, 12th, and beyond dimension, not necessarily density. Math talk be like the 2nd dimension is a flat piece of paper and the 3rd dimension is a cube or something that is spherical. And then the 4th dimension is a series of moments tied together with the integument of the dance of your DNA. And I'll get into that too. So pure dimensionality, pure math talk. I will share with you just personally. I get the most uplift and give the most uplift when I simply remain in those purely abstract states of pure math. I think that is some of the most divinely connected areas of our perception and cognition that we can be in, that getting into the states of anthropocentric, meaning human-centered, and ego-based interpretation are where things tend to become muddied and emotionally distorted. When I'm in these areas, it's why I do my paintings of just pure math. 1 + 1 = 2. This is the shape of a circle. These are the way these circles fit together. There's a clarity there and an empirical truth, empirical meaning, non-able to be distorted in any way. It is reduced to its absolute laser coherent purity, the purity of truth that exists in those abstract realms. And that's where I'm the most comfortable. So that is mostly where I'm doing my sharing from. And please know that as you make the cognitive leap of comprehending or perceiving those patterns that are happening in the world of pure abstraction, it absolutely trickles down, percolates through. I should say propagate. The word is propagate. Propagates through into your other layers and levels of reality that are your human interpretation system, your physical cellular biology, the way that you relate social dynamics, the way that you view yourself, the way that you view events in time. So I go from the direction of the most ethereal or abstract levels of truth, kind of sprinkle that out throughout people's minds, and then have that propagate outwards into the human relationship realm and the self-description and self-perception realm. It does really change and uplift your viewpoint and your behavior and social structure, as opposed to the opposite direction where it's kind of like leveraging upward, where you're like, first let's build this, and then we'll build this, and then we'll build this, like on the human level, and then kind of build a ladder upward to those levels of abstraction. So I'm kind of starting from the abstract and then having all of that cascade down in a really wonderful way, that I feel like that is just I'm not judging at all. I hope that comes through in everything that I talk about, not judging or elevating myself above others when I make these contrasts. Do this because I love it. I absolutely love that world of pure abstraction and whatever you would call it, pure math or divine mind that is, it's cosmic and universal, and it relates to every organism, and the pure freedom that is there. I have nothing wrong with being an embodied human, but there are some distortions and challenges at these levels. So I am choosing to go with like just the pure music theory, and then the rest translates outward. So when I've learned about math, but I didn't come here with the math language and math skills. But so in math, there are these things that are these allegories. This is to this, this is to this, right? So in math talk, what cube is to tesseract, torus is to Flying Rainbow Lasagna. And I have that written in the notes. Cube is a 3rd dimensional non-moving object. Tesseract is a moving cube that a lot of people represent it as kind of like a cube that's kind of unfolding within itself, and or different shorthands of being able to draw that. But just know that a tesseract is what happens when you take a cube or a time box and you actually move it through the fourth dimension, you move it through time. And that similarly, when you take a torus shape, which is made out of time, this is already made out of time. And when I hold this up, well, I'll finish my sentence. This is made out of time. It is a three-dimensional shape, and it does have movement in terms of the flow of energy around it. When you place this in a higher dimensional context, making it jump up and down, I'm skipping ahead, but being shorthand here, it turns into Flying Rainbow Lasagne. So wait, now I want to go into a little bit. This is made out of time. Recap for anyone who's new or anyone who's just finding this recording out of context of everything else. What you see at this bottom quadrant here that looks kind of like a funnel shape upside down or a vortex, that is the time vortex, and it represents your birth at the base where it is fat or wide, up to the culminative moment, the convergence point up here, which is not death, but which is ascension. And everything that's on that membrane here and here, that's the flowing membrane of death, which in the perfect, pristine world of the functioning of our DNA the way it's supposed to be, no one ever explored that area. It was an area of pure clarity. So to go to the energy currents of how energy flows around this torus shape, it's part of your body. I'll show you an image. It's part of your body. I have an image prepared here. Oops, hold on a second. First, I'll do this, then I'll show you an image. It is part of your time body. It is made of timelines and possibilities and probabilities. Energy flows in figure eights around this. So energy emerges from here. That would be the center of the figure eight. This is also a really important part of this sculpture, and in terms of your cognitive leap and your ability to leap into a higher dimensional state, really focusing on that convergence point and what it is and what it means. I call it singularity. It is similar in definition to science's definition of the singularity when science talks about a black hole. It is not analogous to what people in this present paradigm talk about when they say the transhumanist singularity of a joining together of human consciousness and machine mind. So confusing because one word is used in many different ways. I use this saying this is the singularity or the source, God or infinity or the zeroth dimension. It is singularity because there is literally only one. Literally only one in existence anywhere. This is the big cognitive leap that I will emphasize and return to over and over in this teaching and in my class. So science talks about the singularity that is at the center of a black hole. How is a black hole made? Or in this model, a black hole, like you have my hand, the super stretchy fabric of time, space, and I add and consciousness. Time, space, and consciousness. And here we put the infinitely heavy bowling ball on top of the infinitely heavy stretchy fabric of the cosmos. And it begins to stretch out into that type of vortex shape. And if we stretch it out infinitely, it's down below my screen, it's down through the floor, it's to the center of the earth, it's at the other side of the earth, it stretches infinitely. That infinite stretching point is what the world of math and science on Earth's surface describes as the singularity, as a place where the rules of physics, which are the rules of physicality, matter, break down and no longer make sense because many of the values involve in infinity. Like many of the equations no longer function because they are not made to function where one of the variables is infinity and what you have is the infinite stretching point. So it really literally means in the scientific paradigm that to that description, the singularity is the place where the fabric of time and space and consciousness is stretched so profoundly that the rules that uphold physical reality no longer apply to that place. The distinction that I have to make is it is not a different stretched out point in every black hole. It is the same one. Wait, let me grab my magical scarf. Hold on 1 second, everyone. I always joke about this because I'm like, I know I'm off camera. Hold on, sorry, because I have this actually tied up over a microphone as a dust cover. I joke about being a magician. My magical scarf that I have pulled out of my sleeve. my magical rainbow scarf. Okay, so this is the super stretchy fabric of the cosmos, right? And it's stretched out kind of, you know, like this, but I'll hold it up like this so you can see. So let's say we're going to make a stretch. Point it with my finger here, stretching that, and that's the singularity. So we've got one singularity there, but then we're going to make another stretch. We're going to stretch another one over here. Here's another black hole, but guess what? It's exactly the same singularity, exactly the same one. I'm holding them both together here. It's the same one. Let's stretch another singularity. I'm holding it, or I dropped one. I dropped a singularity. I'm holding another singularity. Infinite or uncountable numbers of singularity that all converge and overlap in the same little tiny place of the super stretchy fabric of the cosmos. So you can envision that if you have ever seen a dandelion seed head, what it looks like when the dandelion is made out of seeds and it's kind of like this beautiful sphere with all of the seeds pointed inward. That's what it's like. All of these stretched fabric areas, all of these places where God's divine finger has stretched fabric, all point inward towards one convergence point. Another way of thinking about this is, let's say there's a room, like imagine that my studio right here is infinity. It's a spot that has doors and windows and different apertures or places that can come in. You could imagine that the entire room is covered in millions and millions and millions. Someone's entering, this is great. Millions and millions and millions of doorways and windows, all of which go to other time places. Could be from a star that's in its backflip, you know, the black hole crushing in on itself. It could be a chakra that's part of your body because dun, 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 look at this. You've got singularities inside of you. So you are shaped like these chakras or energy patterns or time patterns. And that's what's on my drawing over here that I'm wearing. Hi, Trish. So good to see you. Beautiful person, friend joining in from Lebanon. Yeah, so happy to see you here. Might be a weird time of day for you. And we're talking about the singularity. One singularity that is actually many multiple doorways or many multiple windows to access that singularity. So here you can come into my living room through the door, through the window, through the hallway, through the other door, through this. Imagine if there's doors, windows, hallways, you know, portals, tunnels everywhere. Like, don't actually create all these tunnels. This is just an imagination exercise. I'm big on like, no, I have my sovereignty and my boundaries. But that is what infinity is. Infinity is like the house that everything lives. So in the energy as it circulates around this shape, this is the place, I always point with this, so I don't bring my sculpture. This is the place where everything overlaps. That's the 0th dimension. It's the source. It's God. It's you. It's where everything lives. It's also the destination because energy circulates out and around like you're in a big circle, then comes back in through the top and goes back there. And that's part of a figure 8. Then it comes out the other side and it circulates around this circle. And then it goes back to the beginning. So we have these figure 8s. I'll do it kind of like this on the screen. Figure 8 around like this. Then another figure 8, figure 8 around like this. And those figure 8s also create these spirals that spiral into the middle like that. And also the bottom one up and into the middle like that. And also the sides into the middle like that. And this one into the middle like that. And the whole time that this is spiraling and everything like that, it also has like a twisting motion around and can also have an end over end motion like that. So this is a very complex shape. So you're looking at like the stick figure. This is a very effective little stick figure though, to be able to get humans, us, to be able to comprehend what time is, because time is this thing that like you're a fish that is swimming in a clear river. Sometimes you can't even see that there is water there. So humans are submerged in time. And this is part of the joy and the opportunity of being in the physical world. Not a burden, even though we sometimes face adversity, but an opportunity at being able to be in the physical world and being able to experience what is time like, as opposed to being the viewpoint outside of the river. Like if you were a bird flying in the sky, looking down on the river, and you could see, oh, that's where the flow of time goes, and there are the fish swimming in the river. We right now are fish submerged in time, and time therefore is not visible certainly not visible to the physical eyes, often not perceptible without something like a clock or a watch, or at least the motion of the sun across the sky. So time becomes this type of abstraction that can be difficult to conceptualize as it is not visible. Humans tend to be very visually oriented. Of those who are sighted, and I always include everybody at every different type of ability, because people without physical sight have just like a different wiring and a different sense perception in their bodies. And also other organisms like bats that would use sonar, or dogs that use primarily smell in order to be able to build a picture of the world around you. So if we can't see it, or if a dog can't smell time, then it's kind of like, what is going on here? So I give you guys a skeleton, a stick figure, a framework that you can use in order to hang the basic understanding of what is time and how is it flowing. Time basically emerges from that convergence point, which is the everythingness of everything. I just keep on focusing on this. It's like thinking about God. You could think of this as a devotional practice, thinking about what it is like to have that one little tiny place. That's what singularity is. One little tiny place that everything is there. Everything that is out here is there. It is beyond a supernatural miracle, beyond amazing. It's one of those things to think about when you're like in the bath or in the shower, kind of like daydreaming, or wherever you do your daydreaming, like, wow, like there's really only one place and all of these things are there. And then also all of the particles or vectors meaning like a movement of force, or pieces of consciousness, or little pieces of you, or little pieces of God's self, all do circulate outward around this shape, having experiences in the physical realm, and then return back to the center. Constant figure 8 movements, constant figure 8 movements, constant figure 8 movements. This is a beautiful shape, a beautiful divine perpetual motion shape, and not in any way an imprisonment form. So I also have to make that very clear. That comes up later in my notes too, but I'll just jump ahead. Like I'll do a lot of nonlinear stuff because I'm like a butterfly. And you guys are all butterflies too. Nonlinear thinkers and experiencers is what I mean. Some people that feel like my chakras, there's something wrong, they're invaded, or they're destabilized, or they're wibbly wobbly, or I don't like what's going on. Get rid of them, like amputate, like whatever, having a bad hair day, shave your head. No, don't cut it all off. You just might need to deep condition or something like that. Rectified is what I'm trying to say. So people that are not enjoying their chakras, they're like, oh, my chakras have invaders, my chakras have parasites, my chakras have vulnerabilities. Someone is hacking me through my chakras. I know, I'll get rid of my chakras. No, I really don't advocate for that. And some people see chakras as a control system. No, I see them as a beautiful opportunity that many of these things have been hacked or depurposed, repurposed, pissed and pooped all over, that's not the way they're supposed to be used, but that's the way that they have been used. So I recognize the trauma response that people do, which is just total rejection. Get rid of chakras, then be safe. Instead of that, what I want you to do is renovate, not demolish, but renovate. No, so reno, no demo. And same thing with reality. Renovate reality, not demolish reality. So yes, there are problems with chakras. Chakras are highly symptomatic. Chakras have wibbly wobbly stuff because of, as I spoke in last week's class. And for anyone who's just catching this as a recording, check out last week's class about galactic history. It's incredibly profound. Membrane of time, membrane of death over here, and the consciousnesses that are stuck there as undigested particles, undigested emotional experiences, undigested, unhealed trauma of the cosmos from time wars that are deeply perturbative, deeply destabilizing everyone, time wars that go back a long time, that ended up with different consciousnesses being stuck on that membrane. That's why people's chakras aren't functioning properly, why instead of them being like a perfectly balanced perpetual motion machine, the chakras go all over the place. And also that is why there are blockages in terms of these perfect figure 8 motions around the time shape, around this chakra shape, as time and energy should be able to focus and flow perfectly throughout the whole entire thing, like really like a beautiful perpetual motion machine. If there's a stuck consciousness right there from some whatever, a failed Merkaba on Mars, an uncountable number of years ago, or whatever. So a time experiment in a parallel dimension and the guy ended up stuck on the membrane of death, or a spaceship that blew up, or I'm thinking about like some rather hyperbolic ideas, but not just you guys living a regular death, experiencing a regular death. Regular death means zoop, you circulate back to the source and you will be re-emanated again. You will try it again. You're not like one of these consciousnesses that got smeared on the membrane of time and kind of doesn't have a doorway or a pathway to be able to get out of their predicament, is a good word. Those blockages hurt time on a larger sense, and time on the largest sense is alive. So big teachings here today to fish swimming in the river of time. The clear stuff around you is actually the flow of time. You might not be able to perceive it easily, but you're a part of it and it flows through you and absolutely sustains and supports you in life. And time is a living presence. It's not an abstraction, something that's dead, unfeeling, or something to be used or utilized. Like people think about building a time machine, like whatever, here's my transmission. Move forward in time, move backwards in time, like the H.G. Wells science fiction movie, like push the lever forward and we go forward in time, pull the lever backwards, we go backward in time, or anything like that. That is not what time is. Time is a living presence, and that these flows of energy around this represent the metabolism of a healthy organism. In the same way that if you look at our bodies, what we have is, here's your heart, and your heart is pumping, and it pumps blood and energy out to your extremities, and then that energy is used and then it returns back to your heart and it becomes a circulatory system and it keeps you alive, and you're running down the road and you're chugging. If you have a blockage and something doesn't flow through a part of your arteries or veins, then that means your whole entire everythingness it has distress, has disease, possibly can even die. So that's big. In my body, I want everything in my body to be healthy. I want my red blood cells to be happy and healthy. I want my veins, my arteries to be happy and healthy, my heart happy and healthy, and all of these things, lungs, of course, to work together as a beautiful concert circulatory system that sustains the entirety, that makes it possible for me, the meta or overarching being, to inhabit this and also to continue forward. So time is an alive being, a live presence, and you can offer love to time also. You can be like, time, I love you, thank you. It sustains us and we sustain it. So we are in partnership. We are like literally little red blood cells. When you're doing your life in the morning, I tell this to everyone. People sometimes think like, I'm just a stupid person. I drive down the road drinking my coffee, like I'm making my stupid face. Drive down the road drinking my coffee. Nothing that I do matters. No. What you do matters profoundly, because the way that you are circulating through your chakra system as a time being, so that your chakras are the flow of time through you. As time is flowing through you, it matters like a red blood cell to the much, much larger being that you're a part of. So if you don't do the right thing, like you're driving down the road to get your cup of coffee in the morning and you drive off a cliff and go over the edge, that's not just like, oh, well, who cares? Another human is dead. No, that actually matters profoundly to the health of time itself, because you are not only supposed to make it to the coffee shop and get your wonderful latte or whatever you like, your double latte espresso, but you are also supposed to meet someone, talk with them, share gifts or exchange. You talk to them, they talk to you. An amazing thing happens. Kapow, new energy event is generated from that. That if you drive off a cliff, then that never happens. And that is called causality. Causality is the narrative story or the structure of interactions of vectors. This thing made this thing happen. Particle A met particle B in the coffee shop. They bounced off of each other and kapow, went in a new direction. But if particle A drives off the road, never interacts with particle B, if particle B gets there, whatever, cafe Americano, and walks out of the coffee shop and goes home, and nothing changes in the way it's supposed to be. So please understand that your events of your life and your DNA dance are important, significant, and that they absolutely interweave with the events of other organisms in other people's lives in the most beautiful and complex patterns that are tap, 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 conducted by a great conductor, written by a great composer, God, who's you, in a higher dimensional state. God self wrote this beautiful musical score, this beautiful symphony. Wait, all right, I'll make the music. the beautiful musical symphony of life. And Waxy's a person that's in this class. She's like, turn down your piano, turn your mic up, and turn your piano down. Piano's not too loud because I think she listens to headphones on. Beautiful music of life that is written by the great composer. And then this is the conductor's baton. That is the one who is saying when it is time to go places. Like, you get ready, now go be born. You get ready, drive your car over here and meet this person in the coffee shop. You get ready, do this thing over here. It takes an enormous amount of RAM or processing power to be intelligent on that level. Not a computer, way beyond any computer that is built. Divine, beautiful, super processor that is able to look at all these various factors and keep everything going and direct the flow of all of these types of energies. So you have your own chakra system that is this, and you are connected in your chakra system to many others. So wait, I teased you. I was going to show you a picture before, and then I got distracted. Because I didn't have my class pictures ready. Let me go. I have everything highly organized, everyone. Don't worry. I'm super organized as a person here. Just gonna get the picture that I want to show you. First, I'll show you this one. Just waiting for it to actually show up on my screen. It's not showing up on my screen. I don't know where it is. There we go. I know I make squinty scrolly faces too. Okay, now I share screen. Okay, no, this part goes away. This part goes away. Oh my goodness. Sorry, guys. Just trying to make this part go away. All right, there. Just scoot it off to the side. There. This is what I actually want to show you. So here, where I'm wiggling my cursor on what should be the right of your screen, you have one individual human figure, anthropomorphic form, and then all of these wonderful, amazing chakras or energy fields that interpenetrate and surround the physicality form that represent different layers of reality, time moving at different rates, and that shows the partnership that you're in as a physicality body with your non-physicality body, with your aspects of the metabolism of pure time. And that's a detail from this painting that's over to the left. And I hope you can see it on your screen. Let's see if I can squish on in. Yeah, so I can squish on in. So that's one figure from that. And then you can see that there's all of this other stuff that is the integument or the connective tissue. Like your integument is like your tendons and your fascia and the stuff that holds your guts together. It's all the stuff that holds your body together. So there are these individuals, men and women, anthropomorphic people, organisms here. I know I didn't put like dolphins or trees, but they also have their own unique chakra systems. And that these abstract rainbow areas that are in between the figures, that's the areas of time where everything is woven together. These are all these amazing time vortexes, time spirals, time figure eights. And there's lots of energy that this is a static painting. It does actually move a lot when you stare at it long enough. Because I put optical illusions into there intentionally to make it look like it's kind of like moving and twisting. But this is not an animation. It is a painting that was painted by hand. It's a physical object. But when you stare at it, you can kind of get the sense of these figure eights that are moving and circulating all around between all these different figures. And if I had to translate it into physical words, like what is that painting about in words? It's about how the life is interconnected. Your lives are interconnected, woven together in a tapestry with the events and the things that you're experiencing woven into other people's events, and that it even goes across many generations. So it's not even everything that's happening like today, August 20th, 2022. It's everything from 5 years ago, from 10 years ago, from your birth, from your ancestry, from the progeny that move forward, from people that are here laterally, from the star heritages that brought life here, from the things that will happen when you exit this planet, parallel realities, multiple realities. All of that is woven together. Very, very, very great complexity. So now you understand the great composer, even more of a genius at music than Mozart. We love Mozart, royal we. I love Mozart as a very amazing, complex genius. of harmonic patterns. These are harmonic patterns. It sounds pretty. It's a harmonic pattern. It sounds good to my ears. All the waveforms nest together beautifully. Beautiful, harmonically nested patterns have coherence. They keep going. It's my joke about waffles. What do good waffles do? They stick together. The waffles stick together. So amazing levels of complexity in the writing of the songs of reality, and then amazing complexity in the conducting. To be able to say, now you fly over here, now you fly over here, do a double backflip, you fly over here, you go over here, meet this guy, talk with this person. So you know that you're in the groove, just like your major and your minor groove in your DNA. You are in the groove when you are experiencing tons of synchronicities, because that means that you are listening to the great conductor. The great conductor says, go there, get a coffee, you meet this person, you talk with them, you're going to make a new business partnership or whatever it is. Hooray! Like new things have been conceived of, literally. New possibilities are conceived of. And then spread outward from that moment. Or synchronicities like, I was thinking about the cheeseburgers, and then I heard the song Cheeseburger in Paradise on the radio. Like any of those things tell you you're in the groove, going in the right direction. So, okay, back to my notes. I know I diverged a little, but I do it as it feels relevant, and then I'll get to those aspects in the notes. Okay. So I talked to you about the painting being a flat static object, but that represents movement. I talked to you about this being like a stick figure, a simplification of something that moves and has energy flow around it. Same thing with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape. So I'm holding here a physical sculptural form that is like one snapshot of something that actually is a composite shape of a movement. So this shape is created from the central convergence point, that center of the yellow sculpture, jumping up and down. And as it jumps up and down, it first creates this swoop up. Then it jumps down and it creates this swoop down here. Then it jumps back up and it creates this. Then it jumps back down and it creates this. Back up, back down. So you see, this is the end result of this jumping, oscillating movement. And it's happening on a tiny subcellular level with your DNA inside of you. And it's also happening on a larger macroscopic level with your entire energy field all around you. And your physical energy field can be as big as your arms stretched out, but it can also be as big as your house. It can include your front lawn. It can include your whole entire town. Your energy field can be as big as you really, you can have a very long wingspan is what I'm trying to say. But usually can be imagined as like slightly beyond the level of your arms stretched out and above your head and your feet in a whole giant sphere, a sphere all around you. And that's the larger outer shell of your energy coming into, of course, the smallest one that would be on the tiny subcellular level. So this shape, emphasis, is the end result of movement through time. And if I also just prepare one more video, it is probably at the bottom of my screen, but let me just search for it to find it most quickly. Hold on a second. If a picture is worth 1,000 words, an animation is worth 12 million words. Animation. Show it, play it. Okay, one swoop is made. The downward swoop is made. The upward swoop is made. Down, up, down, up, down. And that is how the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is formed. And you can see there's the inner space here. That is the inner side where I'm wiggling my finger. That is an empty space. That is actually a higher dimensional space. And that the area in the animation, it's pinkish magenta. Here it is a bright fire engine red, represents the red level of physicality. The physical realm, where like your butt is sitting on your chair. That's physical realm, okay? Where you drink your coffee cup is sitting in the physical realm. And the physical realm is a beautiful place to be. It is not meant to be a burden. Again, I'm going to go back to my face. When people talk about their chakras, my chakras, get rid of my chakras. Or people are like, so my body, my physical body, I want to get rid of my body. Like I'm being a little bit silly, but in lightheartedness, don't get rid of something just if you find it burdensome. Physicality is not supposed to be burdensome. It's supposed to be a wonderful gift. That area where in this sculpture, the red edge is literally where all these things connect. Look, orange does not connect with orange. Yellow does not connect with yellow. Red is really the only area that connects, also the source. So the emitter and destination, the source and the destination, God, the zeroth dimension, everything connects there, and everything connects here in the physical world. But everything else in the in-between journey does not necessarily connect. Trisha asks, is the white light on top of the top? Beautiful question. So if you add up red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, which is abbreviated as Roy G. Biv, all of that equals white light. And that is in additive color mixing, which is putting together light in terms of pure color, not paint pigments. If you add together all of the paint pigments in my paint box, you would get a brownish muddy black because that is mixing with pigments. But if you add together pure light in terms of doing, let's say, stage lighting design, and you have all of the colors of the rainbow in different rays of light, and then you focus all of those rays of light into one point, you will have white light. So white light is the pure emission of pure consciousness from the sun, God, the zeroth dimension, before it is refracted, meaning through the prismatic filter of a crystal, which is your crystalline presence, split up into the various different rays that emerge. And this is positive, not negative splitting up, because I know, again, we're on a very highly traumatized place where everybody's like, but wait, my soul fragments, I'm trying to get my soul fragments back together, and I want to get back to white light. Very valid. I know you want to get back to white light, and that is what the journey is. So I have a teaching that's all about this, that's part of level 1, that's called the Rainbow Journey. You can find it as part of this semester of 2022. And actually it started in 2021, way back in December, but just look for the Rainbow Journey. And there's also class notes about that. We come from the totality state of white light. We are split up or refracted into these different layers of being, from red all the way up to violet, different rates, which are, that's what wavelength and frequency are, light moving at different rates and different fastnesses and levels of stuck togetherness. These are not exact words, but I hope it's getting across to you. So the stuck togetherness of light, until we get to this level of matter, which is the more spread out, more slowed down matter. I'm going to make my voice go silly. Slow down matter. Like we start out with your regular voice up here, but it gets slowed down. It gets slightly distorted. The more that you slow it down, the more that you slow down these light waves, the more you get into these levels of distortion. And then on the Rainbow Journey, loop it around and go right back up from the macroscopic, massive, into the smaller and smaller and smaller refinery of light and consciousness, getting back to white light, which is taking all of these divergent levels of self and integrating them into white light. So in the world of abstraction and math, there's actually no judgment. It's not like one is better, one is worse, you're bad, you're bad. It's not that accusatory type of ego stuff. It is more like saying, this is the cake. White light is cake that is all together. Then it can be split up into its ingredients. And the ingredients, here's flour, here's sugar, here's cocoa powder, here's baking soda, here's a dash of vanilla extract. Those are all the things that cake is made up of. Then once we know what the ingredients are when they're all split up and we chemically analyzed them and weighed and measured everything, stick them all back together into cake, the cake of white light. So the Trish, and thank you for this beautiful question, Trish. She says, can we consider if the white light is the singularity point? Yes. I would say white light is analogous to God, the singularity point, the source that emitted us. And she says the color of the singularity point, it would be white, or totality presence. You're very perceptive, you're on point. Trisha says, Aurora, is the fragmentation of the white light what allowed for the different matrices to be created? Divide and rule, and so the division of white light into the limited color spectrum we get to perceive, which seems altogether part of the genetic manipulation, and we were only made of pure white light. This is where people are coming from, and I know you've got more questions too. It's a really good conversation to have. This is where a lot of people are coming from on this traumatized planet, being like, I don't like the rainbow. Sometimes people are like, rainbow, like that's a negative connotation. I want white light, because I recognize how this is being perceived through people's various filters. So I'm here in total compassion to really explain and describe what this is about. No judgment about whether you are together converged into the singularity in white light, or whether you are dispersed into levels of individuation and individual colors. The individual colors, the rainbow itself, is not a control system. Big. Just like being here and having like your heart, your lungs, your circulatory system, your neurology system, your digestive system, these various different systems are not inherently evil and are not inherently flawed. Many aspects of physical body form have been weaponized and turned against you. Many aspects of the non-integrated light body of various different chakras have been weaponized and turned against you. Chakras were not meant to be weapons. They were not meant to be control structures. They were not meant to be a prison. This is not meant to be in a perpetual motion machine prison where you're stuck going through some kind of karmic washing machine over again. No, this was meant to be a beautiful journey where you're emitted from God, the source, into reality, coalesce as matter, and then go right back up the central timeline, right back to God that emitted you, knowing that you're God the whole time. That's why I joke about spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, you're God. Like, you know this, know that you're God the whole time. But here in this world, there's been a lot of distortion that have made many people forget their divine presence or be in amnesia. The whole planet is really in amnesia from that trauma, from that loss, from that diminishment of being cut off from the source. And it is a joyful return to recognize, wait a minute, I am God. And I have that as another lesson too. Check out in this semester, it's called the I Am God Circuit. So the Rainbow Journey and the I Am God Circuit are really complementary ways of teaching about this concept. So I, again, tell everyone, the rainbow is not evil. Being these various different colors is not evil. Having chakras is not evil. The solution I propose is not to get rid of your chakras. Instead, it is to transcend their difficulties and heal them. So if you have a pathway like this, and then there's a giant obstacle here, instead of being like, that's it, amputate the pathway, get rid of the whole entire pathway, it's flawed. What you can do is say, there's a pathway that is supposed to get this way, but there's an obstacle there. I can jump up and over the obstacle and make it to where I need to go, which is to God consciousness. Or I can fold God consciousness to me in exactly the same way that we fold the fabric of space and time with my magical scarf of space, time, and consciousness reality, folding formerly divergent realms together so that they're not far apart. And this can be, wait, here's you over here on this side of the screen, and here's the sun over here on this side of the screen. And you're like, they're 93 million miles apart. They're so far apart. Aurora, they're so far apart. I'm like, no, they're not far apart at all. Bend and fold the fabric of space, time, and consciousness until they are 0 inches apart. And they actually are right both inside of your own mind or center of being. They're right there at the top of your spine. They're right there in the center of your head. No distance between you and God. No distance between you and light, or the source of light and the source of all nourishment. You're welcome, Trisha. Let me read what you say so that it shows up, because the chat doesn't show up in recordings. Trisha says, and thank you for being such a wonderful student and friend here, says, as the denser the chakra, the denser the color. Yes. So it seems like colors are denser than white light. Yes, I think maybe our words are just not exact, but the concept is there. She says, thank you so much. So it's about wavelength and frequency. Shorter wavelength, higher frequency. Violet and everything that's up at this end of the scale is moving really little and really fast, really little and really fast, really little and really fast. And as we get out towards these levels here, the things are moving bigger and slower. Bigger and slower, bigger and slower. This is how everyone can comprehend manifestation, and why you're like, well, wait, my thoughts think something, but then it takes time for me to actually see that thing happen in reality. Like there's a little bit of a time lag because your thoughts are little and fast, little and fast, little and fast. And physical reality is bigger and slower, bigger and slower. There's a time lag that leads to some amount of distortion. So if you think a thought, whatever it can be, I always make up something silly like purple cupcakes. I think a thought, purple cupcakes, and it's in my mind. But did they immediately come into my hand? Sometimes not. Sometimes you have to have the big, slow physical reality waves that actually manifest them in terms of seeing a picture of them, having someone bring them to you, finding them on the shelf at a store, or buying the ingredients, assembling them, and manifesting them yourself. All of which are valid ways of finding, making, and experiencing purple cupcakes in the physical reality structure. Physical reality begins as a thought form, begins as a projection up here, little, tiny, and fast, and then takes time to percolate into the realm of experience. So it's not that the realm of experience is so flawed, like so bad, so inadequate, so this, so that. It takes time for the signals to propagate into these levels of reality. And we are actually facing a faster propagation rate now, where the seed from your mind grows into reality much faster and much more directly than it ever did in the past. She says, so with FRL, we jumping all colors and straight to white light, which seems to be skipping the matrices obstacles and get to the unity white light point. Over now, highly appreciate you at the Sound of Truth. You're so welcome. I would say yes. What the Flying Rainbow Lasagna allows us to do is to jump over obstacles that have separated us from God's self, God consciousness, and to reintegrate reality, reintegrate these structures so that they are woven together the way that they are supposed to be. So the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, when you do it, still has the rainbow colors. Oh, she's wondering whether we should focus on white light or the rainbow colors anymore. I'll affirm this to you. Flying Rainbow Lasagna still is rainbow colors. However, it's rainbow colors in a new behavior pattern that allows for the true transmission and combination and putting together of these things that used to be separated or distorted. So there's no longer the frustration of like, get rid of these colors. Like these colors are blocking out my white light and I can't get anything done. Like I understand that frustration, but it's not the colors that are the problem. It's the obstacles in the colors that have been the problem. Like paint tubes that are stuck. Like I used to have these oil paint tubes that are crusty on the top, and you're like, I know there's paint in there, and you're like trying to squeeze it out. And you know what I always end up doing? Like cut with scissors on the other side, like cut the scissors so that it comes out the other direction. So I would say that's the problem with the chakras. The chakras as having crusty, over-crusted tubes at the top, that the energy is not flowing. And those are crusty emotional blockages that aren't even necessarily our own, but that come from these other stuck consciousnesses. My face makes this face of care. Stuck consciousnesses that have been severely traumatized, that need to be healed and resolved. We need to be able to get that paint flowing in all colors. So when our world is healed, when those stuck consciousnesses are no longer crusty, over-crusted, tubes that won't open at the top, then all of the colors flow exactly where you want them to flow. And then then you're very joyful to have all of the colors in your paint box. So I just want to tell everyone, like, I don't want you to throw your entire paint box out the window. Be like, I'm only painting with white on white paintings. Those exist. Sometimes they get sold for like $100 million. It's white paint on a white background. You're kind of like, okay, like I know about that. I know modern art, right? But you don't want to throw all the good paint out the window just because it's got crusty blockages. I think that the color system is very beautiful and very divine. It's just that it's been hacked, hijacked, mispurposed, and that this is a reclamation of it. So we'll hold that forward as like the greatest possibility of what we can do. So I'm just going to go back to my notes. Recognizing the FRL as composite shape, I showed you the animation of what it looks like when it's jumping. The FRL shape is what happens when the convergence point of energy, the timelines that are the singularity, the crossing over point, the zeroth dimension, infinity, or God, oscillates up and down. And this singularity, I already described exactly what it is. So when people look at the Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape, they're like, wait a minute, you just spent a lot of time telling us the singularity is only one. There's only one of it out there. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. This looks like the singularity here, and there's one here. How can this be? Isn't that two? Isn't that a duality? And you guys are all incredibly super smart students. If you see that and you notice conflict, please do speak up. The answer is that it's the same singularity, but that it is jumping up and down. And just like in a very fast motion, like my finger is even kind of making a blur on the screen right now, it jumps up and down so quickly that it looks like it's in two places at the same time, but it's actually the same singularity point. And to go further of what Flying Rainbow Lasagna actually is and why this is such an effective response to times of difficulty, it is the complementary position of energy and entropy. Energy is the white light that is at this level of convergence. Everythingness, beingness, actually even faster than the speed of light. It's infinitely fast, it's infinite energy, it's infinite totality. There is the complement, which is infinite non-being, non-existence, no motion, no heat, no light, no volition, coldness, non-perception. That is what entropy is. Entropy is a totality state, not like a, we're almost there kind of state. It's a totality state, like a superlative. And that is a state of total restfulness. It is not the same as Christian hell, which again, I do not agree with those doctrines of endless suffering or that consciousnesses deserve endless suffering. That is why I've conceived of this shape. This is literally a gift that I bring to the world to end suffering. You don't have to have the sense of these beings, not beings, these like consciousness residues stuck on the membrane of death, no pathway back to God, nothing to eat, being parasites feeding off of others. That's what would be described as demonic presences in hell in the Christian theology. There is the pathway to entropy, which is where they relinquish all of their energy, stop being in existence, and go into a state of non-being that would be described as a restful paradise state. No need for stuff, no volition, no motivation, no need to try to get to be alive, no need to try to get stuff from anyone. Imagine having all of your needs met because your needs are literally zero. And it is at the opposite end of totality presence, but not separated from God. So now I have to do some science talk for you. Right now we're in this level of matter. Like I'm touching my face, it's made out of matter. But if you took the matter of my body, of anybody, of anything, let's use an inanimate object, took the matter of this and made it super duper duper cold to what science would describe as 0 degrees Kelvin, Kelvin being the state of absolute zero, you have no molecular motion. So, you know, molecular motion, let's do molecular motion. Molecular motion in a gas. The molecules are moving fast and they're very far apart. Molecular motion in a liquid, the molecules are moving slightly less fast and they are denser and closer together. Molecular motion in a solid, not very fast. But the molecules of this crystal glass are still moving slightly. There is a level of matter that is even more dense than this crystal glass, where the matter is moving slightly, where it might be moving 1 centimeter over 10 million years. It doesn't move at all. It is called a Bose-einstein condensate. That is what happens if we took this glass and we froze it until all of the molecules that are kind of moving together and apart very slowly in a state of solidity stops them and they don't move at all. And what happens is all of those atoms, instead of being individuated atoms, making up individual little tiny pieces of reality, start to kind of smear on top of each other. And they all become one overlapping frozen atom, not different divergent fragments of consciousness, but one giant overlapping one that is unity consciousness. And it is at the other end of the spectrum of totality state unity consciousness. So big teaching here. Some aspects of consciousness, awareness, aliveness in our world, some characteristics are supposed to stay alive and continue perpetual motion machine through time, going to the state of total energy. Energy, moving fast, zoom. Some characteristics or awarenesses or aspects of self are supposed to go into a restful state of non-being. They are supposed to simply be in stillness and non-existence, and that is called entropy. And none of this is about the very embattled warfare, conflict sense of being at this level of duality, of the brow, Christ chakra. But wait, isn't Christ the Prince of Peace, blah, blah, blah? Yes, it is. This is also in terms of development levels, a level of duality, Christ versus Antichrist, thing versus thing, contrast and conflict. Moving past that as we come upward, look at how my spine lengthens up into the crown and this present level of development that we are entering as humanity, a planet, an entire web of consciousness. We're coming into levels of non-duality. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna as a spiritual teaching represents non-duality. Again, not the Christian theology of we're going to punish the wicked, we're going to send them to hell, and they're going to burn forever. And I joke about that. And I also joke that it's kind of like the World Wrestling Federation, like Jesus versus the devil, and you're going down, and we're going to fight it out forever, ever, ever. It's because of that forever part that just makes a hugely endless conflict, low quality of existence. You don't want to be at war for forever. So those of us who have been spiritually embattled, myself included, pathway out is to go into this unity consciousness where you recognize not every particle has the same pathway or the same final destination. Some particles are going to energy. Some particles are going to entropy, but entropy is not a punishment. It is a wonderful paradise. It is an opportunity to end suffering for all of those things that are not supposed to be in existence to go somewhere. They have to go somewheresville. They have not had any place to go. They're like, we don't have a spot. I joke about them being the homeless people, like, squatting in the hallway over there. They're like, hey, we don't have a place to live. Where we're supposed to go, blah, blah, blah. We're going to pitch a tent over here. No, you're not supposed to live in your chakras. They are not supposed to live in your chakras, in your DNA, in your mind, in your energy field. They are not supposed to exist. And you don't have to be like, I hack away at you, I shoot you, a violence against you. Although I have felt all of those feelings, so I'm in solidarity with you. If you feel like F everything, F all of you, like get out of my mind, valid, because it can be just quite distressing for them to be there. The highest self state that you can do is to send them to entropy, which is like sending them back to the source, but not to a sense of energy or light, to a sense of restfulness, peacefulness, and non-being. It's not punishment to go into non-being. And for many of them, it is a release, a blessed release from their half existence state that they have been stuck in for a long amount of time. They've been stuck in between being alive and being really non-existent and dead, smeared on the membrane of death. And that this is in many ways a release for them and a positive thing. Everything that I did in creating Flying Rainbow Lasagne and teaching it here has not meant to be an act of war, you're going down, but instead an opportunity, a loving opportunity for peacefulness and this resolution that ends suffering for all of these different organisms or creatures. Okay, so I got that this singularity is jumping back and forth in two positions. And when it jumps back and forth in these two positions, it has complementary qualities that are different, energy and entropy. Okay, so this is what it means to vibrate the torus or the donut shape into a Flying Rainbow Lasagna shape and achieve an additional degree of freedom. Math talk says that when you place something in a higher dimensional context, you achieve an additional degree of freedom. So two-dimensional, that's like a flat piece of paper or a playing card. If you bend it or fold it, it becomes three-dimensional. You achieve an additional degree of freedom. If you can only walk across a flat surface, limitations, two-dimensional. But if you can jump off the surface and fly like a butterfly, you then are able to fly here, fly here, fly here, fly in all these different ways, as opposed to just walking and crawling across. So you have an additional degree of freedom. Humanity has been stuck to the surface of time for a very long amount of time, when what you're supposed to be is multidimensional beings that are able to fly from moment to moment. Instead of having to live as linear beings, breakfast, lunch, dinner, you should be able to jump to breakfast 2,000 years ago, breakfast 10,000 years in the future, breakfast now, then lunch on another planet, lunch last year, then dinner anytime, all of the dinners. Here we go. Dinner, a magical scarf, dinner overlapping, 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 every dinner you've ever experienced or that could ever be experienced, whatever, in a 10-year period, experiencing time in a multidimensional, expanded, overlapping way. Different way of doing it, so that when we transform our chakra system from the regular chakras and tori into Flying Rainbow Lasagna, that is the change. You become a different type of time being. You're no longer flowing in a linear pattern through the river like a fish. You really do get able to kind of like jump out of the river and even jump into a different river. I'm going to jump out of the river over here and I'm going to jump into the ocean over here. And that's lateral time jumping. And you also can repave the river. And like, oh, I see the river's going to flow like that over a waterfall. I don't want to do it. I'm going to make a different version of the river that goes in this direction instead. I'll get to that in my notes. Okay. I recorded this in 2017, but it is still relevant and true that humanity is under great duress. We're going through a birth process. We're still in the birth process, but we're really getting someplace. And what we are doing is giving birth to a new level of consciousness that involves your own consciousness and the larger planetary structure and stellar neurology, both as individuals, collective anthropomorphic human society, also planetary and also stellar network. This becomes the combination of the inside and the outside. So I spoke about Flying Rainbow Lasagne as energy and entropy. I'm now also going to speak about this in terms of being like a Mobius strip. Mobius strip, which is this created by Swedish mathematician named Mobius, where you can see it is one strip of wood that has been twisted once and then rejoined back together. And it creates a quote unquote impossible shape in that it only has one surface. The inside becomes the outside and the outside becomes the inside. Very fast. I'll do this for you because I'm trying to do some shorthand here. I'm on the outside. I'm tracing with my finger. I never lift up my finger. I'm on the inside. I'm tracing with my finger. I never lift up my finger. I'm on the outside again, inside to outside, outside to inside, edge. Look, I'm on the right edge and I'm going around the sculpture, right edge. I'm going around the sculpture. I'm not lifting up my finger. I'm a magician. I'm not lifting up my finger. I'm not lifting up my finger. I'm not lifting up my finger. Oh, now I'm on the left edge. Do you see that? Now I'm on the left edge over here, left edge. Switch it around. Left edge, left edge, left edge, left edge, left edge, left edge. And now, whoops, back around to the right. See, I'm just like not lifting up my finger. Right, right, right. This finger is still touching the right edge over here. So we're right here on the right edge. One edge, one side, one surface, seemingly impossible, but not impossible. Lasagna relates to that concept, where if we define the inside as this place where my finger is touching, facing the interior dimension of this sculpture, and the outside being anything that faces this room around us, the inside becomes the outside and the outside becomes the inside, specifically in the level of the physicality realm, where my finger is touching on the red zone. What does this mean? Inside is your world of hopes and dreams and potentials and emotional and intellectual energy and pure spirit and everything that cannot be weighed on a scale or measured by objective materialist science and measurements, just, tools, scales, rulers, clock. Well, I mean, like you can use a clock to measure time. And then the outer world. What is the outer world? It's your epidermis and everything beyond. It's other people, hard-edged objects, and the events of reality that you say, quote unquote, are the world outside. And I talked about this in some of my more recent teachings too. The implantation of the ego or the development of the human ego as being analogous to a membrane, like a cell membrane. Your cell membrane says, this is my boundary, and everything inside of the boundary, inside of the cell membrane is different, defined as different than everything that's outside of the cell membrane, which is not me. So the cell says, inside of here is me, that's the intracellular goo. Outside of me is not me, it is the extracellular goo. And the inside of my cell metabolizes differently than the outside of my cell. And then we scale that up to my epidermis. My epidermis is my skin. Inside of my epidermis is me, and I metabolize differently than outside of my epidermis, which is not me. And these are appropriate ego boundaries for the lessons of when we are walking on the earth and we are moving into unity consciousness, which is an expanded and dilated self state and definition of self and perception of presence, where you recognize, well, technically, I'm things that are outside of myself too. Flying Rainbow Lasagna is a cognitive leap wherein you start to really perceive and recognize that your inner world is externally manifested as the people and events around you. And then that feeds back into your inner world. You dream and think and feel, and it is expressed outward as the people, experiences, and other objects around you, which are also created by your observership. They are waveforms that you collapse with your observership, or they are forms of uncooked dough that you cook with the ovens in front of your eyes until they are things that you can, experience. And then you also recognize the experiences that you create and co-create with God of those things. Those emotional experiences reverberate back inside of you. Your dream inside becomes manifested as the world outside. Then you experience it, then you re-internalize it and change and redirect, and then you have a new dream inside, and then you dream a new reality. And that is what Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. So I came here in 2001. I've been here literally for 20 years, almost coming up on my 21 anniversary in October. It's been an accelerating journey, ever accelerating on this oscillation between the internal state manifesting to the external. So there used to be more time lag, little tiny fast thoughts, then manifesting into larger, slower reality waves that are the physicality world. But now there's very little lag. Now it's very much like, think of the purple cupcakes. The purple cupcakes are right there. You guys watch, you're all gonna have purple cupcakes for lunch after you finish this video. Because things are so fast now is what I'm trying to say. No time lag, the purple cupcakes will just be there. But yes, the inner and the outer are blending together into this seamless integration. And what that means is that it becomes a beautiful, I'm always giving glory to God, the credit of your co-creative partnership. Great composer, great conductor, you in another level of reality, manifesting yourself out here, having the physicality experience, co-creating what's happening, remembering and realizing and re-remembering yourself as God, and then returning back to that state of total unity consciousness and God self. So this is a change in ego boundaries. I'm going to read from my notes. The combination of spirit or energy or consciousness and matter. That's what this Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. It used to be that you had this implanted thing when you're a tiny child, you come here and you're like, oh, like I learned to have an ego. Because before you came here, you did not have an ego. You came here and got a little baby body. And that means you passed the audition for being a human. So congratulations. Congratulations, like you got born. That is a huge accomplishment. And however many decades you've been here, like, hooray, you stayed alive for that many decades. You developed an ego, which is a separation and an individuation, not necessarily something that's evil, even though it can be troubled and perturbed. We're in a healing state in this time place right now. But that your ego is a barrier, just like the cell membrane that separates who I am from everything else, right? Then when we start to get to higher levels of spiritual truth, you start to recognize, well, wait, I actually am everything else, and that there becomes this inside to outside permeability of that ego membrane. But it's also important to identify only with the true aspects of self, not the non-true aspects of self. So this becomes an art form, not a literalism, because not everything that is out there is actually a manifestation of you and something that you claim. So I'm a little bit critical of shadow work that sometimes says in a simplistic reductionist way, everything that's out there, it comes from inside of here. Therefore, if there's ugliness or poop out there, it's because I got ugliness and poop in here. Too reductionist, too simplistic, not sophisticated enough. Got to get to have more pure insight and more pure seeing to really be able to see what's out there and what's not supposed to be out there. And the stuff that got grandfathered in that doesn't even come from you, not all that stuff that's out there is actually you. Big, big, big. But back to the pure, so that was on the anthropomorphic level. My criticism on the anthropomorphic level. I would much rather speak on the higher dimensional abstract level. Spirit plus matter. As Melissa from this class, and we jokingly joke, smatters, spirit matter. That is what the Flying Rainbow Lasagna is. It is the combination of spirit and matter. So not only is there the separation of ego self versus collective self and other organisms, not only is there the sense of inside your mind versus outside of your mind, there's implanted this perception barrier, especially with the teachers of the early 20th century, such as Einstein, energy versus matter. Here's energy on one side, here's the equal sign where my face is, and here's matter on the other side. And an equal sign in an equation is kind of like pivot of a balance beam. Energy and matter have to equal each other out. E equals matter times the speed of light squared. E equals mc squared. These two things are constantly in opposition with one another. Energy and matter, the non-physical and the physical. However, there's no longer this constant dualistic opposition when we do Flying Rainbow Lasagna. What we do is a combination of the two of them together. We do energy plus matter on this side of the equation equals question mark, and the answer is infinity, which is again the singularity point of stretchiness of everythingness to the infinity point. When the answer is infinity, the rules of reality break down. There are no longer the same limitations and the same rules. That's very positive. What this means is there's not a distinction between these different states of matter, the state of matter of pure potentiality, of pure energy, and the state of matter of exhibited matter, my actual glass full of actual water over here. The two things become combined together in the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, which jokingly spirit matter, smatter, a type of matter that responds directly to thought. My glass is made directly out of thought. It's filled with thought water. I am made out of thoughts, and I've just put thought water from my thought glass into my thought body. So my thought body have thought thirst, all right? My needs are thoughts also. All right, so no longer the ego as a boundary, which is analogous to the cell membrane, that says everything outside of the membrane is different than everything inside of the membrane. And I always say this in my classes, you are not just swimming around in your own private kiddie pool of thoughts, which is, again, just a complete misnomer. People think that, like, I can think whatever, this is my stupid face, I can think whatever I want in my mind. I'm not affecting anybody else. Wrong. You are actually affecting so many other things, places, people, and organisms with what you think. So galactic citizenship is in great part becoming cognizant of doing self-watching, recognizing your thoughts, and then learning to control them. Your thoughts are little tendrils and emanations that go off into a higher dimension. And if you think, la, 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 I'm not touching anybody else, I'm doing what I want to do, I'm thinking that, okay, you're flailing around in a higher dimensional state, absolutely touching other people, other organisms, other time places, but doing so unconsciously, and sometimes having a negative or perturbative, whoa, experience. In fact, what I did was show you what it is to be a tiny infant. But you know you're not hated in recognizing they got tendrils sticking up here. They don't even know what they're doing. When you're a tiny infant and you just begin to get a physical body, you're like, my arms and legs are all over the place. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't control my sphincters. I don't know what I'm doing. And everyone around you who's an adult is like, that's a baby. Like, they don't know what they're doing. And you kind of wrap them up, you kind of swaddle them up so that they keep them safe, put a diaper on them, keep them safe. Got to learn to control your body. Humans have to learn to control your thought body. You've got tendrils that are also mental and emotional that stick outward into all these other higher dimensional realms. And they are at this moment flailing around in all of these different directions, sometimes touching on other things, organisms, and places, and sometimes causing perturbations and things that are like, not cool. Like babies throw up everywhere, and this, like, okay, get the baby wipes, wipe that up. Yeah. So your minds and your emotions are sometimes like totally touching on things and having experiences, creating experiences that are not intentional. Cosmic citizenship is when you start to become aware of your light body, become aware of your time tendrils, begin to perceive them and feel them, and then use them responsibly and consciously. That is what Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance is about. That is what I teach in my class. I have been doing this on in this world for like 20 years. So I've been doing this for a while, and I've cultivated my time tendrils, and I can feel what's going on in the higher dimensional state. And let's say I'm like a toddler. Like toddlers are like, they definitely know that they have arms and legs, and they're kind of able to get up and walk around and do stuff. They still spill their juice. They still do all sorts of things and make messes, but they're learning to control themselves. So I don't pretend to be perfect. I'm on the learning journey, but I'm a toddler of consciousness going around in the higher dimensional state, making things, I'm saying maybe I shouldn't be so condescending to myself, but I will just say like, I make forms, I make things happen with my mind, with my tendrils and things like that. Then notice I should say I'm an artist in the studio. Like, oops, like I put my elbow in the paint on that one, just fix that up. So I don't want to falsely portray myself as, too perfect. Martine says, I had the impression that I had materialized the water out of the shower hose. I love you. I'm hugging you. That's actually truthful. That is actually cosmic truth. It is a narrative self-story that you're like, oh yeah, the water comes from a water processing plant and goes through a long pipe and a long tube and then ends up at the end of my hose and then it sprays out at me. Like, no, water comes from a hole in the wall. Comes out of a hole in the wall. It's a magical like spring that springs forth out of there. It comes out of your mind. That's really the cosmic truth. When we get to those higher levels of self-state, so that tells me you are starting to move at a very fast rate to be able to perceive that truth. Then we make the connection like, oh, it comes from a water processing plant. Nope, it magically springs forth. If there's milk on the shelf at the store, everybody makes up a story like, a truck brought it here. It came from a cow, it came from this. No, it came directly from your mind, came directly from the mind of God and you in co-creative partnership and has been materialized right there on the shelf in front of you. The cow story is secondary and part of a lower dimensional need for integument of causality. How did it get here? Oh, here's the story. There's a cow somewhere. But it's actually not truthful, but it is the thing that people say. All right, so I just said the vibrating strings of your DNA are affecting through sympathetic vibration the vibrating strings of others, other people and organisms, interdimensional ethics. So wait. I just jumped onto DNA, but I've been talking all about time. My shoulders go up. Aurora, what's going on with this? Your DNA is the physicality or physical tip of the iceberg visible structure that bridges together the world of physicality and the world of pure light or pure time. So your DNA is a really supernatural, miraculous type of inner structure. It can be perceived by objective materialists. You can put it under a microscope and you can look down into it and be like, there's the DNA on the electron microscope. And also so it is visible in the physical world, and that DNA is also connected to consciousness and time, and it's connected through its dance. So if you have a guitar, the guitar has strings. You strum the strings, they make waveforms that sound like music. In your body, your DNA are the strings of like a giant harp. And as you strum that harp, you are making beautiful music in time. The reverberations of what your DNA is doing is the creation of events in time. I'm going to jump forward and talk about this, but I want to say that, in the notes, I have this. Your DNA is not a flat, static object, as it is often represented in a textbook as either an X-shaped chromosome or a Y-shaped chromosome. That is the tightly coiled version of your DNA that is more of like a long tendril or a long thread, when that thread is wrapped up around these different types of spools that are called histones and then stacked up into subsequent donut shapes. Donut, stack it up, donut. That's a torus in your DNA structure. And then those larger ropes are then twisted together again. It's like an infinite crocheting that ends up making these X and Y shaped kind of big giant logs. It is analogous to packing for a journey, like when you have to get all of your clothes into your carry-on, and you know what I do, like you roll, you don't fold, you roll up all of your socks and you roll up all of your t-shirts and you roll up all of your everythings until they're like these little cylinders, and then you get everything lined up into your carry-on luggage. It's the most efficient packing strategy for being able to get stuff into your suitcase. That is the same with your DNA. Your DNA has this rolling factor to it that's kind of like a scroll. So you can imagine my hands are like scrolls, papyrus, or like the Torah scrolls rolling up until they make the smallest, most compact possible little rolled up springs. Now I'm all like, I'm all rolled up inside. And that's the chromosome shape. And that is really only during a very limited portion of the lifespan of your cell, when your cell is about to go on a journey, which is mitosis, which is when your cell splits as cell division. Cell division is replication. The mother cell creates a daughter cell. So, hey, we're going to go on a journey. Hey, you're going to become a new person, or your own individuated cell. Pack up all of your belongings, that your DNA. You're going in a suitcase now. That's what the chromosome is. Oh, how lovely. Several new people just got admitted. You are like, in the... let me mute you, not because I don't want to hear from you, but just for the sake of the recording. Welcome to the new people that just found me. We are already far into the midst of class. I'm talking about the rolling up or supercoiling is the word. Please, welcome. Oh, how lovely. A bunch of new people have just come in. Supercoiling. If you would like to, you can check on YouTube or some other place. Just put in keyword supercoiling. This is what happens when you take the chromatin of your DNA. Aurora, what is chromatin? So if we were saying, no, you cannot. So hold on a minute. Wait, one moment, please. Thank you so much. So back to DNA being vibrating strings. DNA are vibrating strings that are much like the vibrating strings of a harp, and the waveform emanations that they send out are the waveforms that create and connect you to time, which this is the abstract nature of your body in time. So DNA is an amazing supernatural item.
Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up.
Back to the recording. Apologies for any interruption in the flow. There were clearly unwelcome visitors that came in through the Zoom link that I shared more publicly than I usually do. And of course, we've just done a nice, beautiful energy clearing, and Merkaba is up, and only the proper people are allowed to be able to find this. And anyone else can certainly catch this in the archive if they would like to try to find it, but no more disruption of my energy field. So back to the idea of vibrating DNA being vibrating strings that are the miraculous connection of yourself as a physical, embodied, somatic, cellular being into the world of pure potential, pure abstraction. And the way that I describe this is, let's do a drawing of what the fourth dimension is. Time cars of reality. In the fourth dimension, what you have are time cars of reality. These are all cubes, like a little room that you live in. But I'm going to just do a fast shorthand of many, many little boxes representing many cubes, like train cars. Train cars. And each one of these is a discrete moment that is separated at the Planck length. The Planck length is something like 10 to the negative 32. It is an incredibly tiny increment of space or time. It's the smallest amount of space you can have and still be having space. It's the smallest amount of cake that you can possibly cut the cake of time into and still call it a molecule of cake. It is tinier than a proton. Tiny. Each one of these are individual discrete moments. This is a fourth dimensional timeline. That's a timeline moving through time, like a long, skinny French bread. Your birth over here and your death over here at the right end of the screen. And your DNA, that's these squiggles here. Your DNA are like the squiggles that are dancing and constantly in motion that connect together individual, static, discrete moments of time. Now I want to gesture with my hands. Discrete moments of time connected together by the dance of your DNA. So your DNA at times is packed up in its suitcase in order to be able to make a daughter cell, be able to go on a journey. You're going to go on a journey, pack up your suitcases, going to do mitosis and split apart. Then once that happens, when you get to your destination, when you unpack your suitcase, your socks, your t-shirts, your underwear, everything goes everywhere. That is what, pardon me for the interruption. That is what you do when you are in the process of cell division. So when you get to the cells actually having divided in the life cycle of a cell, in the nucleus, and here's the outer cell membrane, then here is the cell membrane. Sorry. Here's the outer cell membrane. Then here is the nuclear membrane inside of the cell. And inside of the nucleus of the cell, what you have is called chromatin. That's kind of like a big giant ball of yarn. It's not actually DNA that is tightly coiled up into all of these tightly coiled scrolls. It just looks like a big ball of yarn, and it kind of moves and twists and vibrates and oscillates, and it blends itself together, and it uncrochets itself, and it crochets itself again, and it makes loops, and it splits itself apart, and it has behavior, is what I'm trying to say. It has a vibratory, beautiful, complex behavior. It is called chromatin. So for the longest aspect of the life cycle of your cell, it is called chromatin, and it is not coiled up into these tightly coiled chromosome shapes. And that's where you have behavior. And it is a dance step. So your DNA is already dancing, and it dances according to socially inculcated paradigms, including the expectation of physical aging, which is chronological decrepitude, disease, certain diseases, including things like cancer, and also the inevitability of death. All of those things are implantations. Those are not naturally occurring thoughts. Those are not things that you come here with in terms of your natural DNA behavior or your thought form expectation. Everything that I'm giving you in terms of this teaching is the wherewithal that you get, teaching you get, to be able to jump into the next highest dimension. It's a cognitive leap. So what has held humanity down, it's not just the sense of like, my chakras, there's something wrong with my chakras, the colors, the this, the that, the pooties. What's really happening is there's a negative limiting thought structure that has been holding humanity back. That you come here as a beautiful little baby, and you're, again, learning how to have a physical body, and your DNA is doing all these amazing, like, and then you start to learn language, and you start to learn about aging, you start to learn about disease and decrepitude. Sometimes you don't even learn about it verbally. Sometimes you just learn by being near someone. Like someone holds the baby, and their DNA is doing all of these patterns that are about like, yep, this is how you get old, or this is how you get diabetes or whatever. And that song is transferred into the little baby. It's not evil, but it is harmful that these negative programs are transferred from the older generation into the younger generation. It's more like almost a computer hack, computer viruses. And then as they enter into the baby's genetic behavior, then that baby starts to run those programs, and it stops being this wonderful, immortal, perpetual motion machine, and then starts to conform to the expectations of society: cellular aging, disease, decrepitude, and death. None of those things are the normal, quote unquote, factory settings or pristine settings of what your dance of your DNA should be. Although those are all culturally normative. Just because everybody's doing it, though, doesn't mean you should do it. It's just like smoking tobacco. When I first came here as Aurora, everybody smoked tobacco. I'm like, I'm going to do this too. And I did it. I'm like, wah, like, this is terrible. Just because everybody does it does not mean that you should do it for your physical body. And I had to learn that in being here. So just because everybody, let's say everybody does this dance, I'm doing this dance, or everybody does this dance. But those are the dances that make you die. You're like, you know something? I'm going to do a new dance. This dance is called the Flying Rainbow Lasagne. And this dance really does not make you die. It brings you to a state of cellular renewal, reconnection to the divine, moving away from chronological decrepitude, and then moving towards eternal life. And since this isn't a good moment, I know I'm still moving through my notes, but let me jump in my presentation to what is the actual dance. So this dance is done first by, I'm healing your cognitive level of being, your intellect that was implanted with these false thought forms. I'm giving you this whole intellectual teaching with your mind, listening with verbalized words. That's one thing. Another aspect is the energy in my voice and the energy of my being. I'm dancing and singing lasagna for you guys right now. And I love it when people tune in just for my energy field. I'm like, yes, like tune in and hear the lasagna energy field. And then also, there is an actual genetic behavior. So I joke in the recording, and I'll include the recording from 2017 and all of this in the description, so you can go back to it and watch. It's I think, one of the best recordings I've ever done in terms of a comprehensive lasagna teaching. What is that? The Flying Rainbow Lasagne is not just a series of intellectual ideas that I sit around and think about every day. Just like music is not just something where I think like A flat, B sharp. I actually play music. I'm playing some music, of course. Like, I've learned about A flat, I've learned about B sharp, but when I'm actually in it, I'm playing the music and having experience. So all the things that I share with you guys about Flying Rainbow Lasagne for your intellect, that's music theory. And it's really, really important to learn about. When you're in it, you're in it. and you're in it doing the actual dance. So I will get into the actual how you do the dance. But for right now, I want you to comprehend that just like you have 4 basic codons or protein structures that create your DNA bridge of light that combines your physicality with the time body, you have basic motions of Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Those are like the letters, the building blocks of more complex aspects of harmonic time language. And the building blocks are, there's an up-down motion, up, down, all right? There's a side-to-side motion, side to side, side to side. There's an in-out motion, in, out. And the in-out you can consider like your heart or your third eye up here, jumping 10 miles forward. Then you can consider it jumping backward 10 miles behind you. They can be big oscillations. And then the final movement is tumbling end over end. So just as I was telling you about the figure 8s that go around here, figure 8s, spirals, time vortexes, this and these spirals and figure 8s are still going on when you do this. But what you do is you take this and you put it in a higher dimensional context. And I'll tell you exactly what that is. That's part of the cognitive teaching. But first I wanted to demonstrate with my hands. I often do hand dancing. And for many years, like when my body wasn't that physically fit and I wasn't as able, as mobile with my spine and other things, I danced mostly seated with my torso and doing these types of hand motions. So you can imagine every single cell of your body has its own individual Flying Rainbow Lasagna energy field and divine connection. So you have an enormous amount of letters of the alphabet to be working with. You don't just have 4. You have trillions of cells, every single one of which can be doing different combinations of this dance. So like this hand can be doing an up down and this hand can be doing a left right. And then I can switch to an in out and then I can do an end over end. So when I'm making these motions like this, you understand these are complex combinations of motions that are happening on a multicellular level. So not everything is in everything is in coordination, but not everything is in conformity. Not all of your cells are like marching like soldiers, up, down, left foot, right foot, up, 2. No. Your cells are like really, really complex players in a symphony where some of them are doing up, down, some of them are doing left, right, some of them are doing end over end, and they kind of touch together and then split apart in the most amazing complex patterns. And it's ever changing and it's unique to you because your DNA signature is unique to you. And the combination of movements that lead to your eternal presence is also unique to you. So that's like saying that the combination of movements that is like the Rubik's Cube to solve your individual Rubik's Cube. It is a unique series of twists and turns and morphs and twisting around and doing and undoing for you to be able to solve the puzzle of you and return to your factor settings of God connection and rediscovering your divinity and knowing that you are an eternal perpetual motion machine, unique to you. And this is the encryption scheme of the cosmos. Through genetic diversity, there's an incredibly strong system. That means it's not like something that is cloned. Bananas are cloned, potatoes are cloned, they're grown from cuttings. The daughter generation is the same as the parent generation. If there is a blight that comes along that hurts the parent generation, it will kill the daughter generation too, because they all have the same exact genetic code. But plants that propagate by seeds have genetic diversity. The same blight is not going to wipe out 100% of the progeny because everybody's a little different. Genetic diversity is protection. So encryption on the larger scale of the giant super processor named God that you're a part of in the time field that you're a part of, the unique diversity of what your face looks like, what your hair looks like, where you come from in the world, what your ancestry is, what you've been through your life. That's beautiful. Diversity is beautiful. Not only physical protein structures like what your face is shaped like, or your gender, or how much melanin you have in your skin or something like that, but also other aspects of who you are on a deep level. Like I said, where you were born, what you've been like through life, and whether you're, an artist or an athlete or a musician or how you look at the world. All of that stuff is part of your unique genetic diversity and who you are as a person. You're not all clones. You're not all synonymous or whatever. homogeneous is the word. You are not all homogeneous. You are unique. And that is an incredibly strong system to have those levels of uniqueness programmed in. That also means that what works for me is not an exact template for you. It is not an off the rack. It must be customized. So off the rack is just buy a t-shirt and put it on. It's the same. For some people, it's like giant. For some people, it's really tight because not everybody is built the same way. You must take the concept of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna and customize it to your unique genetic sweater. Your pathway to divinity, to continued life and longevity, towards non-cellular aging, just moving through time but not becoming more decrepit, to cellular regeneration, to direct manifestation of your ideas and that level of co-creatorship in partnership with God is a unique path. And there's an enormous amount of strength in that uniqueness. So when I do my combo, and my combo is different every day, that's also part of the strength of Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Spontaneity, unpredictability. When I teach this, it is not like saying, well, you always start out with up, down. Then you always go into left, right. It's not like that at all. It's unique. I mean, in music, there are chords, like you might always start off with the C, but then you might also start off with the D, but you're not always going to do the song in the same way. And you're going to do different flourishes and different movements from moment to moment. There's a strength in that too, the unpredictability. So we faced, and part of what I talked about in 2017 was the burgeoning, AI invasion, mind control, taking over of human willpower using technology. We're deep in it right now, but it's still, those teachings from 2017, 5 years ago, are still as relevant as ever in the sense of maintaining your unique, spontaneous, creative, because it's connected directly to God, presence of making things happen in the moment. That is the antithesis literally of a very stuck, I don't have the word right now, a computer system or a computer program that is preordained or already set in its ways, that doesn't have the capacity to innovate or respond to reality in a new way. You guys, we all respond to reality in a wonderful new way. And that's totally the strength of the system in response to that thing that is, or what I am describing, consciousness presence that is already preset, predetermined. And this also goes to the sense of what is DNA. Brief historical aside. So DNA was discovered kind of in the late 1940s or so. And when it was seen to be the human code, and scientists very, in a limited way, mistakenly presumed, if something is written in your DNA, it is perforce necessarily going to happen in the sense of genetic diseases, potentials for genetic diseases, or even the expression of different physical characteristics. However, subsequent generations of scientists, and I always point people to Bruce Lipton. He is a good example of a research scientist that now recognizes the more refined perception of DNA called epigenetics, meaning the code that rules the code. An epiphenomenon is a phenomenon within a phenomenon. So epigenetics is the code that rules the code. It is really the comprehension that the potentials that exist within each individual's unique genetic code do not necessarily have to be manifested. There can be the potential for disease that does not have to be experienced. There can be the potential for negative life experiences that do not have to be actualized. That is what methylation is. Methylation is the sense of how tightly coiled your papyrus scrolls are. If something is all scrolled up, that scroll cannot be written, it cannot be read, it is not made into reality. But if the scrolls are unscrolled, then you can read very easily, oh, here's how to either build a tumor, or here's how to dismantle a tumor. And that can be crucial information. And all of this scrolling or unscrolling behavior has everything to do with your thoughts, your emotions, your feelings, your beliefs, and expectations about reality. So the original viewpoint of science was genetic determinism or fatalism, the sense of being fated to do something or experience something. shrug your shoulders. It's written in your code. It's going to happen to you. However, now it is recognized with much more sophistication. Just because something is written in your code does not mean it is fated to happen to you. Identical twins do not develop identical diseases. And in such, there is an enormous amount of freedom to recognize that. So really, this is about partnership with the divine and profound levels of choice in the way that you navigate the potentials of your life and of the time field. And also with Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you are able to restructure the possibilities, not even choosing like which timeline you like and which direction you're going, but you can restructure. You can weave together these fabrics or fold time, space, and consciousness into new patterns that say new things with the same potential letters of the alphabet that were there. So I joke that you can take anything that is a random book, like a phone book or a whatever, technical manual, and then you can fold the fabric of time, space, and consciousness until the letters rearrange themselves and say something that can be the equivalent of a great masterpiece of literature, like Shakespeare or War and Peace or something like that. So that is what humans can do with your DNA. Something that there's no such thing as junk DNA. That is also another like great misunderstanding, misrepresentation. It all matters, but what it has to do is be rearranged effectively in order for it to be read and interpreted correctly. And you can also rearrange your DNA until it creates a different story. And this has to do with you as a co-creative experiencer along with God, becoming a cosmic galactic citizen, becoming highly self-responsible and being able to write a new or better story for yourself, for your human collective, for the planet, for all organisms here, or light itself, for life itself, for the entire stellar network. Okay, so wait, let me drink. I know it's been a 2-hour presentation, and we'll release my notes to you guys so you can read everything. I'm going to skip a little bit, but I want to get to all the stuff that's important. All right. I got to you guys being alive beings who have passed the audition, the cosmos collapse. Passed the audition, you made it here, you got born as a baby. Big red chakra teaching, the I am chakra. I'm allowed to be here. I'm allowed to be here. Even getting a body is an audition process. And then the fact that you're here says you are worthy of being in the physical reality and you're worthy of having this experience. This is one of the very few places where all the different divergent levels of consciousness and energy moving at different rates and at different densities and different particles and vectors and forces can all interact. It's a privilege to be here. You get to interact and be affected by so many different things, just like actors on a physical stage. Matter comes from the root word mother. That's big, even if you might have issues with your mom, which a lot of people do, that I've learned in this world. But think of it as a great parent, Mother Earth, the wonderful place of physical density that is gestating us as consciousness. This level of reality being embedded in matter is literally a womb within which we have been gestating our consciousness. And consciousness is what is inside of your own skull or epidermis, but our consciousness is also collective and is what we as a human society are thinking about. Big, you're not swimming around in your own private kiddie pool. And this is the way it's supposed to be. You're not a lone human. No man is an island, quote unquote. It's not like you're in a contextless void with no other humans around, microbes, plants, or animals. You're part of a symphony. You have an instrument, that's your body. Hello, welcome to the band. The band is full of lots of life, including the microbes that are inside your tummy, the microbes that are on the outside of your skin, the yeasts that are flying by in the atmosphere around you, the planet, tree outside your window, other people that are in your life, birds flying by in the sky. And we have to integrate our own personal desires with the personal desires and fulfillment of all of these other organisms. You have to be in partnership with microbes in order to be alive, like they help to digest your food for you, and they also protect you from infection. Wait a minute, bacteria protect you from infection? Yes. Positive bacteria are your friends and allies. They protect you from infection. You want to cultivate positive bacteria microbiome in your body and have them protect you from negative bacteria, that the bad guys that you don't want. So I already got into this one, the Flying Rainbow Lasagna. Sometimes I abbreviate it as FRL in my writings. It's more than just a set of ideas. It's a set of actions that you can do. It's a maneuver and a practice and a movement, and also a physical macroscopic dance that I do. Like I dance with my hands, but I also now my body is more able and I'm able to do more things. I definitely dance with my arms and my legs and my spine and my fingers and my toes in a very expansive and expressive way. And that's what I teach in my FRL dance class, which it's still ongoing and will be going on through to the end of September. So I already got to your DNA not being a flat static object, chromatin, supercoiling. Again, you can do a research on Facebook for what is supercoiling. I have a supplemental homework video that's also part of that playlist for you. Moving upon beyond the idea of genetic fatalism. I already got that. Good, 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 good. All right. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna is not just a way to turn your eyes from brown to blue or change your hair color or something like that. It's not like just for cosmetic purposes or something like that. It's not just a more laborious way to change your appearance, because your DNA is more than just your protein structures. Like, what color are your eyes? What color is your hair? Your DNA is actually the connective bridge of light between yourself and time. So we're talking about transforming your DNA, meaning transforming your flight through time. I help people to understand and share at this time that we are under great duress. We're at the culmination of the moment of, quote unquote, anything can happen. And we're about to burst forward from that moment of pure potential. That's what was going on in 2017, time loops loop around. We're still having this moment of like, dun, dun, anything can happen. What do you want to do in that moment? That's it. I write here, right in my notes. If humanity is poised to begin manifesting from their inner realm into their exterior reality, the question is, what do we want to manifest? I'm going to admit this person. We'll see if things work out okay. I'm skeptical. We'll see if things are all right. If not, they get booted. And just hold on one moment. How exactly do you do the Flying Rainbow Lasagna? It is a transforming of the toroidal energy structure, which is your time body. Your time body surrounds, interpenetrates, and coincides with your physical body. I've already shown you the pictures of that. The areas of color around your anthropomorphic form, I already did painting of that. And I told you about the train cars of reality that are held together with the dance of your DNA. The dance movements of your DNA are literally what propel you through time from moment to moment. When you die, what really happens is your DNA stops moving. The difference between you and a corpse right now is that your DNA is moving and doing stuff. And the way that your DNA stops moving is through, the way that you die is through okay, so your DNA doing its dance is literally what determines what timeline you are experiencing of the vast array of timelines that are out there. Every person is responsible for their own flight through time. Big. When I call this the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, that is what I'm really talking about. You are flying through time. Oh, if you were wondering what was just going on, I just decided to remove that new person who came in. They weren't being verbally disruptive, but I did not enjoy what I saw on their screen. So that's all. Why it's not appropriate for me to try to force anybody to do lasagna or be at any other level of development than the one they are at. That is what love is. Love is really, it is a reciprocal love tone of giving and receiving. It is also an acceptance of people and organisms being where they are in their level of development. I come here as a cosmic visitor. I'm a galactic walk-in, and I come here and I say, I have these ideas for you. You are invited to join the cosmic band. You are invited to become an advanced jazz player on the harp of your, genetic instrument here. It's optional, not mandatory. And I have to be accepting of people being at different levels of development and being open to these at different levels of receptivity. Not for everybody, that's fine. If it's something that you align with, that's fantastic, and please be with me on the journey. And if it's something that you are not in alignment with, I wish you good luck on your journey. And I say that literally with no malice and no irony or hidden sarcasm or any kind of thing like that. Truly wish people well on their journey. Just their journey takes them elsewhere or away from me. Hold on a moment. All of what I offer is done in freedom. It's the only way real love can be made. So as I come here as Aurora, as a walk-in, I'm like, I have ideas and energy and opportunities to share with you. It is offered to you as part of your free will. And if it's something that you wish to learn more about, then you choose in freedom to learn more about it. And if not, I cannot force you to do it. So on this planet or in this social cultural paradigm now, I offer these thought, sprinkle them throughout, sprinkle the rainbow sprinkles on top of whatever the oatmeal of life. And if you're into it, then please align with it. And if not, it is totally your free will choice not to participate in it and to go on your own timeline. So your genetic code is unique to you. Your choices are unique to you. Not everybody has the same exact pathway through time. Not everybody has the same exact pathway of learning, and it must be accepted. People are moving at different rates and have different motivations and different levels of receptivity. And that is all part of divinity and diversity and is accepted and allowed and celebrated. And my behavioral response is I speak to those and connect with those who are interested and moving at the same rate and running the same marathon in the same direction. Like if you're not even in the same marathon or in the same direction, I wish you good luck on your journey. Okay, because this is big. Flying Rainbow Lasagne, what I teach about involves radical self-responsibility, emphasized in my notes. So we're becoming a part of a larger music and finding a way to transform one's own individual journey through time. This goes beyond disempowerment narratives. Here are disempowerment narratives for you. Government, economy, religion, and external savior programs. Those are all implants that are disempowerment programs that tell you that something else should be telling you what to do, something else should be controlling your behavior, something else should be telling you what is and is not possible in your life. I come here as a force for freedom to tell you, you get to be in charge of your life and you get to be in charge of things, and you get to be empowered in these ways. I am not going to tell you how and what to do it. I am an art teacher. I was going to say if I were an art teacher, I am an art teacher and a music teacher. And the way that I teach people is by saying, here's materials, like here's a paintbrush, here's paints, here's a canvas, here are things you can do with these tools. Here's one way to use them. Now you have to find your own vision. You have to find your own voice. I'm not going to tell you whether you should paint with green or red or what you should choose or what you should do. You must make those choices on your own. Emphasized in my notes, with the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, you take radical self-responsibility and you are able to combine the inside world and the outside world, literally outwardly manifesting that which is internal as a sense of potential inside of you. That is huge. I know I was just doing a clearing if you noticed what was going on with me because of the energies of the people that tried to come in and disrupt my meeting. Just had to do a little clearing of that out. It's so interesting. Yes. What is inside of you is unique, and your way of externalizing it and manifesting it is also unique. And it takes a huge amount of responsibility because guess what? Your life is your masterpiece. Your life is your masterpiece. And what I would not do in my art class is be like, I'm going to just pick up your paintbrush for you. Be like, that's not how a nose looks. You paint it like this, like this, like this. Boom, done. Like they kind of throw down the paintbrush and go off to the next thing. Like, hurry, like I know what I'm doing and you don't. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. I would not do that to you in your life. It is your exploratory mission, your quantum laboratory, your masterpiece of your life. And that diversity and unique presence is required in the cosmic symphony. Same thing with every single microbe on its journey of self-awareness and self-discovery, planet exploring her self-discovery, star system and photons and stellar network, levels of self-discovery. So this is a balance between responsibility to self and individuation and my own journey and allowing others the freedom to explore and be on their journey also. Beautiful partnership, beautiful balance. This Flying Rainbow Lasagne oscillation is the end result of a movement over time. The jumping back and forth is a transformation on a genetic level and on the level of the time body. One of the things that helps you to make the cognitive leap is that comprehension of what the singularity is and that it exists within various different aspects of your body. So it's at the center, it's at the nucleus of every atom, the nucleus of every somatic cell. It's the convergence point of every energy center or the chakras on your body. And every part of you, it leads up to trillions of doorways to infinity. You have trillions of doorways to infinity. That's all the same infinity. It's all the same room. I went through this earlier in the presentation. And when you do the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, sometimes I'll say in, out, and you might imagine one big giant lasagna jumping in and out, or one point that sticks out from your heart, one point that sticks out from behind you. However, this jumping is on every single cell of your body. You can have some jumping out, some jumping up, some twirling around, some jumping behind you, some going end over end. The complexity is almost incomprehensible to the physical mind, but not incomprehensible to your levels of embodiment. You're part of a superprocessor, and you become a superprocessor, superprocessing as part of this much, much larger superprocessor that is literally the mind of God, divine mind, non-anthropomorphic God. Okay, so for a long time, there was the artificial separation of self versus context. That's the membrane of the ego. There's nothing wrong with ego. I'm not one of those people that says you have to kill your ego. But what you need to do is refine your ego and redefine your definition of self, dilate your identity to include things beyond merely the interior of your epidermis, and to include an expanded definition of self. That includes other organisms, other people, and other events, where you have to accurately claim what is you and what is not you. Because when people do inaccurate shadow work, they're like, that pile of SHIT over there, that's me, but sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's not you, sometimes it's someone else's poops. But you can be a good citizen. You can pick up someone else's dog poops on the street. I do that sometimes. But it's not mine. Not mine, but you can be like, well, I'll clean it up since I'm here anyway, and I have the doo-doo bags. But not your responsibility. But thank you for being a good cosmic citizen. But it's also not your job, because you know why? There's a lot of poops, and you got to be like, I take care of my own responsibilities, and others must take care of their own mistakes, poops, things that need to be cleaned up. So we're still in that level of making a distinction between self and other, which is effective. But when I say renders the ego permeable, that is a big part of the journey. You start to identify with the things that are outside of you as your art project. So in the one sense, there's these disempowerment states that say you have to have a government to tell you what to do. But you don't have to have a government to tell you what to do. That is an externalization of a flawed internal program. And when you achieve states of inner freedom, you begin to recognize, I don't have to have that externalized government, big brother, to tell me what to do. Then that definitely changes your particular dynamic with big brother, and also changes big brother itself, and that you do a big shift. You shift things just by having that recognition inside of you, and then multiple people having that recognition at the same time shifts everything. I'm very much on the sense of, as you move into a larger expanded self responsible context, abrogating the necessity of external government. Big, big, big. Which, if in case you don't get it, is like a blood-sucking parasite. Okay, because the time field is a living presence, it is not just some dead thing. It is not a machine. I already described how time has a metabolism and a consciousness, and we are like red blood cells circulating around the body of time. Circulation and metabolism, the time field that has the various figure eights, circles, and spiral vortices. I'm finally getting through my notes to this level. When it is healthy, time flows without impediment, just like blood. And we are submerged in the flow of time like fish swimming in a river. I already got to that. Membrane of death is parallels to the cell membrane. So we have an ego being parallel to the cell membrane, separation of thing versus things, inside versus outside, cell membrane, intracellular goo versus extracellular goo, membrane of death. Membrane of death is this area of the time vortex over here that separates out this area from life in this area over here. And this area over here is actually the next dimensional state. Okay, so wait. The membrane of death is supposed to be clear. It's supposed to be a transit point so that when you get there, you dissolve instantly and go into a state of entropy. So if you, as a good embodied person with a soul, die, what happens is you go into a state of entropy. You dissolve, your sweater gets unfurled, you get kind of reprocessed, you go back to the beginning, you get ready to get knitted into a new version of the sweater that this time hopefully will not go on the membrane of death. But you don't get stuck on that membrane forever. Those denizens of the membrane of death are there because they are part of a horribly failed time experiment, that they are like stranded is one word. blockades or undigested obstacles of emotional presence, trauma that needs to be resolved. And that is literally what is happening right now in our daily ongoing experience. The healing of that trauma goes back to ancient Atlantis, galactic history, check it out, from my class from last week. It goes back to ancient Atlantis, it goes back to Mars, it goes back to the planet that is sometimes known alternatively as Tiamat or Malduk or Marduk. It goes to the Orion arm of the Milky Way galaxy. It goes beyond trauma, bad stuff has happened. That's why those things are there. And those are the things that we're really trying to heal in order to restructure and restabilize the chakras. And the way that you heal them is through doing Flying Rainbow Lasagna and sending those stuck energies to entropy. Okay, the torus. This is the torus, and you can also see it as 4 vortices. How is this 4 vortex shape created? You could imagine first a time bubble. Science describes the everythingness that is what I call the 0th dimension, expanding outward suddenly and creating these concentric rings or concentric spheres that are time shells. More and more and more ripples of time expanding outward. And where my hands are now, the bubble of reality is the moment now. And that you could also envision God's giant fingers poking into that bubble of reality, making it go like this, and making it go like this, and then making it go like this. And that is how you create this 4 vortex chakra shape. And let me just see one moment if I have that easily available in my class notes, class lectures. I have it on my other computer. It should be here. Is it here? Squinting and scrolling. I'm not seeing it here, but I will send it out as part of the homeworks. No problem, don't worry. Oh, I do have it. I know, I'm so organized, guys. I knew I had it. Okay, hold on one second. Now I have to go back to here. Squinting and scrolling. Share screen. The magic picture is here. Okay, so this is a quick little sketch that I did years ago, clearly, but that's exactly what it shows. The process of transformation from here in the upper left-hand corner, a giant time sphere, a bubble with these vectors, God's giant fingers dimpling it together, creating these 4 vortex shapes. Then you can see how that turns into a flying rainbow lasagna, kind of cutting those vortex shapes in half, bisecting it the way you would a grapefruit, right? Eat a grapefruit, and then pulling the center singularity point upward and downward, popping it forward, kind of like a circus tent, into the pointy upward and downward points of the flying rainbow lasagna. Good, I'm so happy I was able to show that to you. Because a picture is worth 1,000 words, you really can see it. Okay. Told you about science definition of time, and I'm going fast on all of this. What is limited about science's definition of time is that if you're stuck on this membrane, that is the bubble of the moment now, anything that's inside of the bubble goes back to the original expansion point. That's the past. And we all certainly recognize the past. However, science's model of what is going on does not recognize anything beyond that time bubble, which would be the future, the world of pure potential. And the recognition of that future and placing the time bubble in a context is literally how you do this cognitive leap into the highest dimension, next highest dimension, that is the flying rainbow lasagna. I'm clearing it all out. I'm showing you the time bubble. Let's get a better time bubble color. Time bubble right here, okay? That's a terrible bubble. Let me draw it again. I'm telling you, sometimes these pens are very hard to work with. Better. Here's the stuff that everything started from. Everything expanded outward in this direction. You're now on the edge of the time bubble. And where I'm scribbling here, this is what is the future, the potential for the future, a bunch of uncollapsed waveforms, but science doesn't recognize that. According to science, none of this stuff over here exists, right? That is a very limiting viewpoint, and that is part of the genetic squashing. So I am here in order to be able to tell you that the way that you flying rainbow lasagna is to place this in a higher dimensional context. So first, I'm going to go back to that sense of you're dimpling this into 4 vortex shapes by going dun, 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 right? Four vortices are created by these 4 vectors. So now let's draw my fast little shorthand. There's one vortex. Here's another vortex. Yeah, I'm getting there. I know it's not perfect. I'm getting there. I swear, guys, I'm actually like really good at drawing. It's really hard to work with this pen. 4 vortices, okay? But it's still just a bubble with nothing around it. In order to create the flying rainbow lasagna, what you have to do is put that bubble of time in a context. I just put it in a place. The room that contains the room, a higher dimensional space. Now we have that bubble in a place. Now, if I take this guy over here and I make it jump up and jump down, what it does is create the flying rainbow lasagna shape. This part that's in the middle here jumps up and creates that kind of swooping circus tent-like shape. Then this part here jumps down and creates this type of swooping circus tent-like shape. And then the curly lasagna middle, I want to say the creamy middle, is curling around the middle. And I'm going to show you another drawing of this. But first, I want to do another alternative, which is where instead of making the sculpture jump up and down within the room, the sculpture stays in the same place, but I make the ceiling jump up. Oh, I make the ceiling jump up. And when I do that, that makes everything change relative to the context. And then I make the ceiling jump down. So that's like saying I'm a big giant, like I'm a giant, and I'm going to take my giant hand and I shake the entire box that contains everything, but the sculpture stays in one place. So you can either move the sculpture or you can move the entire cosmos. Either way, it ends up vibrating the original 4 vortex shape in a higher dimensional space. Got a picture for this. Get it ready. Wait, let me squint and scroll. This one I have right here. Yeah. Share screen. Okay. This is a beautiful picture. And, I have all of these diagrams as part of my art book. If you ever want to check it out and see them like in really great detail and be able to have them, it's on my Etsy shop. I have like a self-published art book that has all of these paintings in it, all these diagrams in it, everything. So you can really see it and like really look at it. If you ever feel like it's difficult, like you're squinting trying to see it on your screen and you want to see it more, it's available. So at the top of the screen, this is a torus that is cut in half, cross section, like cutting an apple in half from the top down. Then you can see the torus is also cross section on the bottom. It's the same torus. It's jumping in 2 different places. It's called superposition. Half the time up here, half the time down here. And then you can also see how we've got the convergence point. That is half of the time up here where I'm wiggling my cursor at the pointy end up here, half the time over here. And then as it is making this up and down jump, it creates the flying rainbow lasagna shape in the empty space in between these 2 toroidal shapes. So the toroidal time vortex is jumping up and down, up and down, up and down. And just like a ship or a plane can leave a waveform in its wake, the flying rainbow lasagna is the end result of that wake. So I just gave you a whole bunch of cognitive ideas that give you the capacity to make this leap. It's a cognitive leap into the next highest level of dimensionality. I also then use music. We're going to get into the actual doing of it. I'm wrapping up for today. So yes, got to all of this, and I'll of course share my all right. So the flying rainbow lasagna is a meditation or a visualization that you can do similar to the Merkaba. First, you get it going in your imagination, right? Imagine the animation that I showed you in your mind. You imagine these jumping motions happening. And when you do that, you are intending it for it to happen on a cellular level and on the level of your time body. So those imaginations that come out of here affect your DNA. Your DNA gets going. Your whole entire body gets going. Got it? So that's how it basically works. How do I do the flying rainbow lasagna? And then also I teach my class, and cool people, not horrible interlopers, but like the real people in my class are continually invited, because it's a sacred dance and I do not have time for nonsense. Continually invited good people to connect with me and do my dance with me. How do I do my flying rainbow lasagna dance? So it's been different over many years. I've been dancing here for 20 years. My body has cellularly regenerated. Initially, I didn't have good balance and good spinal coordination, all these different things. I wasn't as athletic as I am now. So initially, I used to do it just dancing from like my torso up and pretty much doing these hand dancing. But the main part is you got to get fueled up. So you have ideas in your mind that I just gave ideas and energy to you. You got to do sun gazing. The sun as a major proportion of the music of the cosmos and the symphony of life that you're creating, co-creator, the sun, the emanator of time, timelines, possibilities, and probabilities. Everything that you have comes from the stars and from God, the sun as your dance partner. Sun gazing. What does sun gazing look and feel like? Sending out a tendril of attention to the sun, ingesting that light through your third eye into the circulatory system of your body, filling up your entire body being while you're also connecting your spine to the earth through your root, through your crown, through root over here, all the way up to your crown, touching the sun. And then in my teaching online from years ago, I taught about making an ankh, which is kind of like come up, out through here, around back here, and then forward through here. But now I teach just go out through the top of your head. We're in a different time, and I think the ankh is superfluous at this point. Go out through the top of your head. So it's basically put the tongue on the roof of your mouth. Don't fry your eyes. Don't stare directly at the sun. Wear skin protectant oils. Avoid titanium dioxide, which is a bad nanomaterial you don't want to use as sunblock. But definitely do put on positive essential oil sunblock. Wear a hat. I wear UV protectant sun contact lenses, but not sunglasses. Do all these things to protect yourself because we do have the sun simulator. Someone asked me a lot of wonderful questions in last week's YouTube. I do need to do a whole presentation all about the sun simulator. So this has already been a long one for today. I'm going to save that for another time, but I will address that for you. But the real sun is still there. Big upshoot of all of this. In 2017 and 2012, it was easier to connect with the true sun. There's a lot of crapola between you and the real sun right now, but it's not impossible. So at this point, I do not that much connecting in terms of line of sight, meaning directly like a laser beam from my eyes to the sun or from the sun directly to me. But I do go mind to mind, folding the fabric. Dun, dun, dun. Folding the fabric. I'm trying to be lighthearted, of space, time, and reality, so that the sun and myself are connected and there's zero space between us, not 93 million miles. So even if there's chemtrails in the sky or a series of weird mirrors or lenses or something that's trying to block out the sun, I still connect with the true sun. And I encourage you guys to do the same thing by using Flying Rainbow Lasagne. Jump back and forth, jump up and over, jump, twist around, do your time acrobatics. Connect to the true sun. It's still there, even though there are all of these other false light, illusions, and distortions and limitations of the light that's flowing to us. Do not focus on the illusions, distortions, limitations. Don't get upset or perturbed by them. Crapola is there. Jump up and over the crapola and go directly to the true light, true mind of Christ, non-denominational Christ, true light of God, non-biblical God, divine partnership with pure light and pure energy and pure knowingness and pure data and pure information. So sun gazing is a big part. It's why I live in sunny California. It's why I live in sunny California, because sun is a huge part of what makes my consciousness grow, literally like a plant. So I'm a light eater and I eat light, and that helps my consciousness to grow and to flourish. So in order to do the Flying Rainbow Lasagne over these many years, I've been eating light. And I also eat wonderful physical food for my physical body, because although we are transforming or retransforming into our true form as light eaters, you still need to eat a healthy breakfast. You still need to eat real food. And I'm a huge advocate for non-GMO food. Don't eat a bunch of out-of-tune guitars if you want your DNA, your guitars to be in tune. Non-GMO food, non-chemically filled food, non-processed food. So I make a lot of my own food, and the things that I eat are pretty much like as much in their whole state as they can be and still be digestible to a human. So minimally processed food that still has a huge amount of divine intelligence and light within it. But the way I describe it in the recording is that, let's say if an apple, beautiful organic apple, has 1 unit of divine consciousness in it, and you eat it and you're like, wow, that's great, 1 unit of divine consciousness. But to do some of these higher psychic acrobatics and Flying Rainbow Lasagna, you need 1,000,000 units of consciousness energy. That means you cannot fit 1,000,000 apples into your tummy. Like, there's just not enough room in there. So what that means is you're going to have to plug directly into the sun and get 1,000,000 apples worth of light energy directly from the sun. So I do both of these things. I get energy from the physicality realm by eating wonderful, good, healthy food that is nutrient dense. I'm hungry right now, actually. Because when I do these broadcasts, I'm like, it's like running a marathon. I'm using up lots and lots of calories and glucose. And then I'll eat something good later. I did have a good breakfast right before we started. I made wonderful, my own almond bread that is like unsweetened, like just almond flour and eggs and oil and then leavener. That was really, really good. Yeah, so I make my own foods. Eat the physical food for your denser body, knowing that it is light food. However, what we are doing is moving out of the level of density where physicality food will be created, because that is the world where humans, because of our diminished and squashed DNA state, have had to domesticate both plants and animals. This is big. I'm not a judger of either plant usage or animal usage, but we must recognize that we are using other organisms. We are exploiting them. Even though you can be in gratitude and you can say thank you. I say thank you to my food all the time. Say thank you to my food and thank you to God. And recognize that you're in a partnership with them and you're being quantum entangled. You're quantum entangling with the almond bread as it comes inside of you. And also we have genetically modified, not genetically modified, selectively bred, like an orange carrot is not the same as Queen Anne's lace. We've changed the reproductive behavior of many plants in order to make them more nutritious and bioavailable to humans and convenient to us, not necessarily what the plants in the plant kingdom want to do for themselves. All of this is a harnessing of their natural reproductive behavior and creative behavior. That is not what we will have to do when we return to our true genetic blueprint. Big. That is no judgment on you. If you use animal products or if you use plant products or whatever you are consuming, you must consume some other form of light and life here to sustain your own life. That is part of the being in the symphony of life right now. And also recognize that the transformation back to your true genetic code and your true heritage of who you really are means that you don't have to eat a plant as an intermediary to light. That plants are intermediaries. They're like, I'm going to do a miracle. Plants do a miracle every day. Ta-da! I'm a plant. I'm going to perform a miracle for you. It's called photosynthesis. Plants do it all the time. Like musicians that are so good, they just kind of make a symphony all the time. Yeah, plants are literally virtuosos, taking light from the sun and transforming it into matter in the terms of cellulose and different forms of fructose and different forms of starches that are available to us to eat and for us to be sustained by it. It's a miracle, it's supernatural, it's a magical manifestation that they do. And what we end up doing is we become plants. Like we become the capacity to eat and ingest light directly from the sun and the stars, and then create matter of our body out of that light in exactly the same way that plants do it. So we would go directly to being light ingesters, but we're not there yet. Love yourself while you're on the journey. God loves you while you're on the journey. There's no judgment, radical self-compassion, radical forgiveness, be in gratitude for all you have, be in gratitude for the microbes that are in partnership with you in your tummy. Also, as you're eating your food, helping you to make it bioavailable so that you can miraculously sustain yourself here and know that you are moving in the direction of no longer needing this. Why? Like everybody's squinting. Why? Because the answer is, this is how experts do star travel. Humans have been very limited in their development, creating clank metal spaceships, going into space, literally wearing a space diaper. You can look it up, you can read about it. Astronauts that wear a space diaper because they don't have effective toileting when they're kind of, on their space journeys, not the ISS, or if you believe in that there is, because blah, blah, blah. People are like, it's a dome, no one's actually up there. Okay, here's the deal. There's actually stuff that is beyond the stratosphere of Earth. There is not actually an ISS because of lots of alien intervention that's going on. A lot of that is green screen. But if you did actually live in a zero-G environment, you'd have to find some way to be able to make your pee-pees and your poo-poos and put it someplace. Humans haven't really solved this. And also humans are bringing all of their food in like toothpaste tubes full of spinach that they're going to like squeeze into their mouth, squeezy pouches. That is not how experts do star travel. When you do star travel as an expert, you eat light directly, don't need a spaceship, don't need a space suit because you create your own microclimate and you fly on the stellar network from star system to star system as a beautiful free being. You could imagine with your hair blowing backwards in space like a beautiful comet, and you're flying forward, and you don't need to have a metal spaceship at all. That is how experts do star travel, except you don't have a physical form anymore, but you have a waveform. Yes, you do not need to have the intermediaries of plants and animals. So no, you do not have to have a zero gravity floating farm on a giant arc-like mothership to bring you between where you presently are and where you want to go in space-time. You fly there on wings of pure consciousness, being fed light directly by the sun and the stars. And your ship is a ship of consciousness. You're flying with many other beautiful alive beings, none of whom you eat. We don't eat other members of the band. We are a band, and we're making music, and we're flying together, and that is what Aurora is, flying in the sky. But that is a level of attainment that humanity is not there yet. So first you get to be a light eater, then you're able to get off of the surface of the planet and not have to be eating plants and animals as intermediaries. And there is no judgment for you. This is part of love, radical love. You are loved. I love you. God loves you. Accepting you where you are in your level of personal development and taking the time that you need to be able to become a light eater. So it's really not like this. It's not like am I gonna make it? Is the ascension bus is leaving next Tuesday. Am I gonna make it? Am I good enough? Am I gonna get to be a light eater by then? Or am I going to be stuck behind? Will I burn in hell forever? Wait. Will I burn in hell forever? No. And don't be under pressure like that. It's very negative, and this is not how, it's the antithesis of love. You have as much time as you need, as you require to be able to go through your process of self-remembrance and transformation to being, returning to being a light eater. Spoiler alert, you all came from that level of being. You return to that level of being. You self-remember. You have that experience again. I'm here as a rememberer guide, reminder guide, helping you to know and remember yourself so that you return back to those levels of being. And I remind you of your freedom, and I remind you of what that state is like. All right. So we do sun gazing here to feed the light body and still sustain the physicality body, but we're moving into levels of smatter, spirit matter, where you recognize your body is less dense than it used to be, and it responds directly to consciousness. Your body responds directly to thoughts, and so too does your environment. You start to recognize that all of your food is made out of spirit matter too. Everything becomes part of a less dense realm. Everything becomes part of a different narrative story that is the cosmology of where stuff come from. Because I love, Martin was saying, I love Martin. Martin, I love what you were saying, that he said that he really could see the water coming out of his spigot as being something that just came out of the hole. It just comes out of there. Yes, that is actually the real cosmic truth. The narrative story structure of the big, long water processing plant and tubes and plumbing that it has to go through is actually the laborious narrative that the implanted mind requires in order to accept and understand the presence of an item in your life. But you could just be like, oh, it magically appeared. It magically appeared, but supernaturally and miraculously might be a better word too. Natural magic. These things spontaneously appeared, and that is part of the amazing development that is happening. I'm almost at the end of my notes. I promise everyone we're getting there. Okay, becoming pure light eaters is preparation for being able to leave our planet, to be able to untether from our planet, which I've already said is our mother, root word matter, matter, M-A-T-E-R, matter, M-A-T-T-E-R. We are coming out of the material world. We are coming out of the world of pure matter and objective materialism, and we are becoming now this combination of energy plus matter. I return to my revamping of Einstein's beautiful equation: energy versus matter, energy versus matter, energy plus matter equals smatter, equals infinity, equals Flying Rainbow Lasagne. That's what's on the other side of the equation here. So we've got, this is the combination of energy plus matter. All right. You no longer need to domesticate plants and animals. And we have what is called this state of freedom, meta liberation. Meta prefix meaning overarching, liberation to free. And I just literally released this album that is called Meta Liberation, that I'll include the link in the description. I love this music that I made. I'm very happy to share it with you. I literally just uploaded it and released it last night. Meta Liberation, all of those songs are exemplary of this feeling state of pure freedom. It is also, when I make my music, I try to make music that is bringing about and creating the things that I want to create. So like I did an album that's called Under a Gentle Sun, because I wanted to create a world, singing and dancing and creating about this world that is happening under a gentle sun. And now this latest one is Meta Liberation, really wanting to manifest the state of meta liberation. Human consciousness, earthly consciousness, plants, animals, microbes, all of it, light, photons. Light is free to flow on its voyage. Meta liberation, liberation for all. Yeah, very, very big. I'm just reading through my notes. Sorry if I seem a bit distracted. The next thing I have is that the Flying Rainbow Lasagne is a real workout. So I want you guys to know, like, if you look at my body, like I do other forms of exercise that are isometrics and body weight exercises and things like that. For many years, like what I did when I was just moving into athleticism, I just did my Flying Rainbow Lasagne dance. And I really built a lot of my muscles and a lot of my capacities to move just by doing these macroscopic dance movements that are about the pushing and pulling of the levers of the cosmos, and that it is a real workout. So it is a genetic oscillation, a cellular oscillation, a change in your energy field, and also movements of your arms and legs and fingers and toes. And all of this is regenerative, transformative, and has definitely changed and strengthened my body. So the process of how you actually do the Flying Rainbow Lasagne dance, dun, 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 after an incredibly long presentation, Aurora, how do we do the dance? Like, you're shaking me out the show. Like, how do I do the dance already? Okay. First, do sun gazing, eat the sun, fill up your inner energy banks by doing that eating of the sun. Sun gazing, create a perfect circuit with yourself and the sun. Drawing in energy with your tendril to the real sun. Jump with Flying Rainbow Lasagne to the real sun if you can't touch the real sun, or if it's a cloudy day, or if it's nighttime even. You can eat the sun even if it's nighttime. I'm promising you on that. Absorb all of that light energy. Eat a beautiful, good breakfast, whatever. I make the beautiful almond bread. Then what is necessary? Oh, music. Music makes my car go. Definitely, definitely, definitely. So music has a huge impact on our DNA. Your DNA are waveforms. They are vibrating strings. The cells of your body absolutely respond to music. There's tons of scientific validation in terms of what people here call sound baths or sound healings, gongs, chimes, resonant quartz bowls that are so beautiful. I have a beautiful song that's called Elevations that you can find that also on Bandcamp, that is about just these resonant chimes that I have in my voice, just kind of singing and making overtone sounds. All of that has positive impact on the structure of your body. That sound affects the structure of your body, the roundness of your cells, the roundness of your red blood cells and the way that they are able to carry oxygen. Sound affects your body, and also sound affects your emotions. You guys know all of this because you put on a sad song and you start to feel like, that song is so sad and it makes me cry. You can tell on my face, my whole facial expression changes. And you put on other songs and you're like, that song makes me so happy and I feel like dancing. It feels so great. So yeah, there's a reason for all of that. Music contains a ton of emotional energy. So I have lots of music to share, and it's why I make it. And that's why I make it and share it with other people. All of my music is meant to bring you into an uplifted Flying Rainbow Lasagne state of pure empowerment. Some of my songs are sad and wistful. Some of my songs are rocking. Some of them are fun dance songs that are just like, you know, whatever, like dancing at a disco. And then some of them are very like for introspection, like the Elevations one that is about chimes and really like not having a percussive beat, but flowing through the cosmos. Or Space Flight is another one that's about flowing through the cosmos. All of these things, music makes my car go. So when I did this recording that 5 years ago, I hadn't made all this music, and I would just listen to what was commercially available here. But you know something, you can listen to something like a beautiful ballet, Tchaikovsky, something like that. Or you can listen to Rage Against the Machine, or something that is very forceful and rock and roll and you know, digitally created and enhanced, different sounds for different levels of your needs. What is the day like? What is the feeling state of the day? And that's usually how I wake up in the morning. Like I put on the song that represents the feeling state of the day. And if I don't have the song nowadays, I create it where I'm like, I am feeling this. And I put on my music creation, whatever, my software. And I'm like, sometimes light jazzy drums, sometimes heavy drums, depends on what I'm feeling. So I have all these different ways of making music. Music makes your car go, and it can be the jet fuel that you need sometimes to jump into the next highest dimension. So sun gazing, food eating, put on music that is personally inspiring for you and appropriate to your mood. Merkaba. Let me give you a brief description of what is Merkaba. Hold on a minute. I have to get it. It's in my class notes again. I'm very organized. Don't worry. You won't have to wait very long. It's right here. Share screen. Merkaba is two interlocking star tetrahedrons or tetrahedra that are in counter-rotating motion. So this one that sticks out from your heart, for me as a woman, moves around to the left, and the one that sticks out from behind my base of my spine moves around to the right. These are counter-rotating fields. This is ancient, beautiful information. I won't even call it technology. I'll call it information or energetic envisionment, that I have a whole teaching that is all about Merkaba and a whole video lesson that is all about Merkaba. It's enough for me to tell you that it can be used in three ways. One is an energetic immune system, blocking out energy that is anything less than love, but still allowing love and nourishment and positivity and divine guidance to come inside. One is as a wish-making apparatus, where you make very exact requests with your upward pointing pyramid, and then you're in a state of receptivity, like your hands are open, with your downward pointing pyramid that faces all the way down into the earth. Thank you for being here, Martina. I know it's Europe for you, so it's probably the middle of the night. And then interdimensional travel, which is when you really master the first two levels, and then you're able to turn your star tetrahedron into an octahedron. Aurora, what is an octahedron? Why, everyone, an octahedron is, I'm being so silly with my voice. Can you see that? I know it might be a little bit blurry, but try to put it like up here. People do this on the internet. I don't know why, but maybe it helps the camera to focus. This is an octahedron. Anyway, this is yes, we got it. That's an octahedron. It has kind of a square base like the pyramid shape. So that is an octahedron. And you turn the tetra into an octa, and you can even see the shape that is in there. That's kind of like the star tetrahedron shape that is through that clear window pane of the octahedron. I wish I had a bigger one to be able to show you, but I think the camera showed it pretty well. Tetra into octa, that's for another lesson. That's for interdimensional traveling. We'll do that another time. Merkaba for protection, because that is going into your art studio of life. You know how I had some miscreants try to come into the recording today? They're like, we're going to mess up your class. Blah, blah, blah. We're going to be naughty. That's life. You got to have your shields up, everyone, because you want to be in your creative process, in your creative lovemaking process, with your own divine partnership with God, with the sun, with pure light, with pure divinity, and that you don't want to have anyone else try to come in and be like, blah, 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 we're making stupid stuff happen. Shields up throughout your life. And that doesn't mean that love cannot come in. It means that crapola, stupid, poopola nonsense cannot come in, but that good stuff can still come in. So putting up the Merkaba as the beginning process of being in an exploratory journey and a creative journey, co-creative partnership with the divine presence. And then you begin to do the Flying Rainbow Lasagne, which can be purely abstract and blissful and non-verbal, which is how I usually do it, where you know that you're asking and co-creating from the state beyond the ego and beyond the temporal level of self. So I told you at the beginning of this recording here that, you know, there's that level of ego and temporality and the duality, thing versus thing, and the fight down, the showdown of the ages. And then you can also move beyond that into these levels of beyond the ego, where it's just mathematical and empirical truth. And that is where I do my Flying Rainbow Lasagne dance from. Don't worry if you can't see it or perceive it all. Just get the basics of the beat. get the basics of the beat, and then you will go into higher levels of complexity. That is how I have done it. That is how you can do it too. Just with music. Music, learn like 3 chords, bum, 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 then play a song, keep it simple, then eventually play a symphony. So that is what you do with Flying Rainbow Lasagne. You start out with, oh, it's such a beautiful comment, Trish. Thank you so much. I'm going to read what she says. She says, you're a real champ, so inspiring and empowering. Thank you. I am in so much gratitude. Thank you for what you just said, truly. Thank you for your encouragement and your beautiful presence here. You're the antithesis of anything that is trying to knock us off course, and you're totally steady co-creator, making beautiful things happen. So thank you very much. When people are beginning Flying Rainbow Lasagna, sometimes they might think like, am I good enough to do this? Like, am I allowed to do this? All these self-doubts and things like that. Throw your self-doubts out the window. Part of what the Merkaba shield is like saying, if you're in the gym, you're learning tumbling or something like that. You tumble on a puffy mat, you've got spotters and different straps and things around your midsection so that you don't, fall on your head in a bad way. You have the support of the cosmos. You have the support of divine presence, of the planet, of light, of coherent light family, so that you can begin a rough sketch of reality. When I make a painting, I begin with a rough sketch. I don't begin in indelible ink. I actually begin with pencil, where I'm like, okay, I don't know exactly what I'm doing. You don't have to know exactly what you're doing, but what you have to do is begin. And as you begin the process, it becomes evident to you in your life. You don't have to know exactly what you're doing. Should I go here? Should I go here? Should I make this choice? Should I make that choice? What should I make? Should I start a business? Should I go back to school? Should I work for someone else? What should I do? And that's just a simplification of all the different life paths you can take. What you should do is follow your own innate divine directive. And that means that you get to make a rough sketch. So you're like doing your dance, doing your dance, doing your dance. Maybe you're thinking, I'm going to do this. Then the next day you might stand back, come back to the studio. You look at what's going on in your reality sketch. You're like, that part doesn't look right at all. Get your eraser. Let's pretend this is my pencil with an eraser. That part doesn't look right at all. That doesn't look like a face. That doesn't look like a flower. Erase that stuff away. Erase that stuff away. We're going to sketch that back in again. So that could be like, well, I thought I wanted to move here. I thought I wanted to do this. That's not what I want. No, what I really want is to do this. And then you add that in. That is part of the searching line or the exploratory nature of being an artist. And you are supposed to do that in your life quest for remembrance of God's self and returning to, your pure factory settings and doing exactly what you're supposed to do in your life. You have some sense of where your heart wants to go and some sense of really true divine guidance. And then you might not be sure on the details. In art, what you do is you work from the generalities to the specifics. So if you're painting a face, you actually do not start off with the eyelashes. You do not start off with the little tiny highlight that's at the center of a person's eye. What you do is you just make a blob. Just make a face that looks like a generalized blob. Like if you squinted and kind of looked at your screen, you'd be like, okay, it's kind of like a blob, kind of a peachy blob. That's fine. Just put a blob there. And then the next day, you look at it, you squint again. And you're like, well, this part over here is kind of dark. And then this part over here is kind of light. Put that in. Then you start to see, as you add more and more layers, more and more specifics come forward. And at a certain point, you have the self-portrait of you, of who you are, of what your life is supposed to be. So with your life, you might be like, I don't know exactly where I'm supposed to go, but I want to make a life change. So you're like, okay, general thing. Then as you do more layers in the oil painting of your lasagna dancing each day, you are adding more of the specifics, doing more of this co-creative partnership, bringing focusing your imaginative envisionment more and more and more into the reality structure you want to be a part of. And then at a certain point, you have a very clear image of what you want. So I've been creating my masterpiece of my life for 20 years. I've been here as a warrior for 20 years, and I've been dancing with Flying Rainbow Lasagne for that whole time. My dance has changed and evolved. My body has changed and evolved. My artistry has changed and evolved. I started out by making these drawings that were relatively simplistic and just drawings on paper. Eventually, I learned about art supplies. I moved into being able to get different art supplies. I learned about making my own paints. I learned about computer animations. I learned about 3D printing. I learned about making fabrics. I learned about Photoshop. I learned about, all these different things. And then, like, I always loved music. But then I started to learn about music, and I started to learn about the piano. I'm touching my piano. And then I started to learn about software. And then I started to learn about digital music. And then I started to learn about this. Like, new things came up, new talents and gifts emerged in me. My voice of what I wanted to say became stronger and more clear. And so it's been a long journey of self-expression, always giving this glory to God, myself in another dimension, but you get me. God's self-state with God, partnership and expression, because I'm like the part of myself that is here in physicality. Then there's this completely abstract, great composer, great conductor that has all of this amazing inspiration to guide me. So the Merkaba shape is about this balance between both. I listen to my own heart. I listen to guidance that comes from a higher dimensional intelligence. I listen to myself. I listen to higher intelligence, working out this beautiful partnership of creating reality. And then as I've been on my journey, everything around me has also been changing and shifting. Human society has changed and shifted over 20 years. There's been tons of adversarial stuff that has happened over the past 20 years, like the war has heated up. Then there's been tons of heroicism that has happened. As the adversarial conflict has heated up, so too has people leveled up in spiritual warriorship of being sovereign warriors. What that means is like not the same as like you sign up to work in an army. It's more the sense of saying like, I work for God. I'm a sovereign person. I am free. I work for God. I work in freedom. I exemplify this. You know, you have the boundaries of creating your own life. And that is everything that I teach to others, that I want you to be your own person, your own individual. Listen to your own heart, listen to your own innate divine connection, especially in your Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance. Make it your own. So I love it that I've taught this to people over many, many years. One beautiful student and friend named Ellie does her dancing in the pool. She loves being in the pool. She's a swimmer, and she loves that feeling of being like kind of floating in the water and being supported in her body structure to be able to do all these beautiful motions. Then I know some other people that do their Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance while they're like running on the road or doing some kind of, cardio or exercise or some kind of yoga. And I know one person who does it sitting completely in stillness, not moving her body at all, and just vibrating on that inner level and in the level of the world of pure thoughts. All of these are totally valid. And then people have their own experiences. Like some people have spontaneously switched timelines, avoided certain death on the highway. That was one person that wrote to me about that. And then some people have done this in order to move their lives in more positive directions, creating new opportunities, new projects. And then there's our whole entire human collective that is moving in these levels of planetary ascension, which is birth of the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, the sense that our planet is moving out of pure materialism, matter. Planet is giving birth to something new, like an egg opening up, giving birth to something new. That is this combination of spirit and matter. Spirit plus matter equals infinity. The Flying Rainbow Lasagna as a tool to be able to create a completely new planetary structure beyond the levels of objective materialism, beyond the levels of a limited commodity-based economy. That's kind of like, we've got this many bars of gold and this is cost this much and you only have this many potatoes and that's how much it's going to cost you. Like if you can manifest things with your mind or with your connection to the divine directly or with your quantum observership, there's no limitation on what can be created. And you also must take responsibility, because did you just want to manifest a lot of cheap junk and then sell cheap junk, like whatever, manifest 10 billion things for $1 and then sell them for $10 million. Like, do we need 10 million of those things? Like, is that really what you need? So really changing and restructuring of the value system of what it is to create something and commodify something. This is just briefly. This has to do with free energy devices. Like if I was like, I'm a benevolent alien, I will sprinkle free energy devices all throughout humanity. Some humans would be like, hooray, free energy. I'm going to manufacture endless plastic crap, like, pool floaties and plastic waste paper bins and plastic straws and like all these things. Like we don't need a lot of these things. A lot of this is junk crapola, but it's just like make a lot of it and then put it in a dollar store and people will buy it. So no, humanity has had to totally change and shift humanity's value system in order to be responsible enough to do something like use free energy or endless energy supply to tap into that, so that humans aren't just exploiting energy and exploiting matter. It is a sacred partnership. And what will happen is we will create energy, we will create matter and items and material items directly from our minds. Your wants, desires, and needs will change. Many people think, I got to get $1 million in the bank because then I'll be free. But what you really want to do is manifest freedom. Instead of saying, I need the intermediary of money. If I have this many millions of dollars in the bank, then I will be free. Or if I want to help humanity, first I must manifest $30 million, and then I can do my philanthropic contributions to humanity. I love that you care about people. Positive. What I'm wanting to redirect is away from money as an empowerment tool and intermediary and into direct manifestation, where you're like, you know something, those guys over there need clean water. I want to manifest a well for them, manifest it directly. And that also, of course, might involve resources, building, working together with other people. But you understand, it's not the sense of like, if I want to get something done, first I have to get a bunch of money, then disseminate that money to other people. I all the time may send out positive good wishes for people to receive what they need to receive. If it is a fellow artist, I was talking to a nice neighbor of mine here she's retired. She really is in a small apartment. She's like, I want to move and have a bigger art studio. I'm like, I wish it for you. So that is a genuineness. That's not a mere posturing on my level. What I'm really saying is, instead of, well, first I'm going to need $30 million, and then I have enough to be able to benevolently gift people, and I could gift her art studio. Got millions of dollars in my innate wish-making capacity, and I wish for her to get her art studio, and I wish for other people to be able to level up and upgrade in their lives and to have their peaceful cabins in the woods and other things that are dreams that people have shared with me, and their trips to Peru or their opportunities to visit places that they've always wanted to and dreamed of. I wish it for them. And that is a big part of what this Flying Rainbow Lasagna and new economy and direct manifestation is about. So I encourage you and invite you to be on that journey towards those levels of benevolent reciprocity. You're wishing for yourself and you're wishing for others. I'm going to wrap up because I'm at the end of my notes, but basically this is about integrating your own music with the rest of the musicians in the cosmic band. Because of course I wish things for myself, like my own comfort, my own sustenance, my own food, water, shelter, and artistic freedom. And I wish it for others too. And I wish for the spiritual renewal and uplift and healing of others too. And that includes the dolphins that are swimming in the ocean, that there's problems with ocean water. I want the ocean to be clean for the dolphins. And I want the rain to be clean for the redwood trees and all of the other plants that are getting, you know, whatever impurities rained upon them. Like I want all of these things to happen. So when I do the Flying Rainbow Lasagna dance, I really do move beyond my personal desires, which are valid. I want you to know, never chastise yourself for having your personal desires. And also I dilate my identity outward, upward, expansively into what is good for everyone, not for everyone, but what is good for all these other organisms. And when I hesitate to say everyone, because we go back to loop on back to stuck consciousnesses on the membrane of time, that what I want to do is also manifest the entropy solution for those parasitic organisms that do not belong in reality. For them to get what they need, it means they need to get entropy. So instead of being like, have to find some way to support this person in their art studio and this person here, if you're an embodied person, you pass the audition. And you should have physical resources, and you should have energy, and you should be alive. You should have light and consciousness. But if you're stuck on the membrane of death, you do not have a body. You are not alive. You should go to entropy. And that is one of the most benevolent things or giving things that can be. It is about ending their suffering, but they should not have art studios. They should not be sustained there. Hi, Lucy, good to see you. I'm just wrapping things up now. If it's good even if you tune in for a few minutes. I know she's in her car, she's driving someplace, but Lucy's a long-term student, participant, publisher of my DVDs many years ago. So yeah, she's really busy and sometimes only tunes in her car. The whole point being, there are different divergent levels of consciousness. Not everybody needs the same size sweater. Some people need to go to entropy, not people, organisms need to go to entropy. And that is the proper restructuring of the cosmos. And then our world needs to be restructured in terms of who's got resources and how is it disseminated. And it is done largely on this level of pure imagination, pure intention, and then percolating or propagating through into the manifestation of the physical reality. So Trish also says, love the FRL in the water. She says, the closest we can get here to the sensation of space, floating and traveling, slow traveling. Thank you for this amazing lesson. You are so welcome. Thank you for sharing about the water. Thank you for being an FRL dancer, person in the band. I know also like you do a lot of singing and adding of the beautiful harmonic sound waves to our world. Very much in recognition of you and your contributions too. And yes, floating. So when I do my FRL dance, I often feel like I'm floating in space. And when I do my dance, I usually close my eyes and I just feel what it's like to be in that state. And I try to make sure I don't bump into any furniture or any sharp objects that are around. And I also do a lot of like rolling around, rolling through, and kind of being able to be really graceful in going through these interdimensional portals. It's a state of pure freedom, and it's really beautiful to experience. So that is what I try to encourage with everyone, to find your own pathway and expression and daily embodiment of that state of pure freedom. And I also say doing the FRL dance is like the easiest, coolest, most fun part of my day. Like other things are hard, like answering emails. That's not that hard, but like pay your Geico bill. I was joking about that. Pay the parking tickets. That's a big one. Do the administrative stuff, do the intellectual stuff, all of that stuff, the challenging stuff. And then I love my artwork and music. That's freedom. Then my Flying Rainbow Lasagna. That's just my pure, basic, true nature and feeling state. That is the thing that is totally fun and totally cool and totally expansive. And there's no pressure, just total joy and total encouragement and support of the cosmos. And it really does change the world, and it really does bring you into greater levels of personal expansion. So that is why I've called this particular teaching, in the face of adversity, dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. So whatever is happening in the world in terms of physical challenges, geopolitical instability, exopolitics, extraterrestrial invasion of your planet, sun simulator, technology, Houthis, genetic crapola, the West to the worst, all those things. My response is to dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. And that is literally the sanest thing, the most sane, grounded, and effective thing you can possibly do. And that brings about very real positive changes and makes possible timelines that would not have been possible otherwise. So that's my notes. Opening the floor to any questions, comments, or sharings that anybody would like to make. Now's the time, because it's a little bit of a long recording, but I always like to make it possible so that way for anyone that's going to catch the archive, if there's anything that you want to be able to share, that will be, with the rest of the class as part of the recorded archive, then you always get a chance to share unofficially after I close the recording, if there are things that might be private or that you just don't want to talk about publicly. So opportunity to share now. If not, then I will simply say, I'll include all the links for everything that I talked about. Yes, you can find my new music, Meta Liberation. I'll include that link that's down there too. And I'll also include a link to the original recording that I did. That was this presentation from 2017. You can check out my old YouTube, because there's a lot of details in there that are worth checking out and listening to. And my lecture notes will go out via email and also to everybody on Patreon. My profound thanks, encouragement, recognition to everybody that's in the symphony of life, that's everybody's doing their flying rainbow lasagna dancing and moving into more positive directions. Oh, Troy, thank you so much. I'm not sure if Troy is like your account and family account, if that's your name, but to the person that's posting as Troy, thank you so much. Thank you, Aurora, for a fabulous class. You are so very welcome. Official welcome to the class. I'm so happy to have you here and for you to be learning and sharing. And yes, new semester is upcoming. So that's also another good thing for people that have been enjoying this and that are aligning. I know, Troy, you are tuned in for the next semester. For anybody that's watching this, I heartily invite you. It will start at maybe the first or second week of September. So just getting ready for that. So that's all good. I will use that as an opportunity to wrap things up. Usually I talk about after WALK, my DOG. She's still sleeping in bed today. She's having a long morning in bed. So thank you so much, everyone. And in total continued encouragement on the Flying Rainbow Lasagna journey.